Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Once again, brothers and sisters, peace and blessings upon everybody who's watching around the world. We've got so many people already in the chat and so many likes. I really appreciate that. Also, I just want to mention that this channel is linked with our brother from Yusuf Ismail from the South African Debate Initiative. So guys, please go onto that channel and like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. But guys, one thing I really want to emphasize to you all who will be watching this, in the future, is to share the stream. The voice of the oppressed is not being heard. We need to make more awareness of this channel and these streams because it will help the people, especially the mankind, to unite with each other. It doesn't matter what faith you come from or what religious belief you come from. Justice is justice and truthfulness is truth. And we need to work together, link together and work together for the common goal. I really appreciate that. If you can please share the stream onto your friends, onto social media, so we get more views on this particular topic. So as you can see, we've got brother Yusuf joining us, and I'm going to pass the mic on to our beloved brother Yusuf all the way in South Africa. Brother Yusuf, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum and shalom alaikum to those out there who are Jewish, and certainly to the good rabbi. Well, on Sunday, we had Professor Norman Finkelstein with us as a guest, joining us both on the COV FF channel as well as the South African Debate Initiative, which I urge you to subscribe. And today we've got another special guest by the name of Rabbi David Feldman. Rabbi may not remember, but both him and I met in 2009 when he was down with Rabbi Yisrael David Weiss of the Neturai Karta in South Africa, in Durban in 2009. And back then, there was an interesting discussion held at the then Islamic Propagation Center, the center of the late Ahmed Deedat, called "Is Israel Set Up for Spiritual Destruction?" Just briefly to those out there, the Neturai Karta, otherwise known as the Guardians of the City, is a religious group that was founded in Jerusalem in 1938. And basically, it's an ultra-Orthodox, authentic Jewish group that essentially advocates that the state of Israel as it exists today, the secular state of Israel, is totally illegitimate, has no religious basis, and in fact, the existence of the so-called secular ethno-state, which euphemistically calls itself a Jewish state, is in fact a rebellion against God, as it did not occur with any kind of divine intervention through any Messiah. Well, joining us from New York City in a lovely park, I believe in New York, is indeed Rabbi David Feldman. Rabbi, I would like to say good evening, but actually it's good afternoon, and shalom alaikum or salamu alaikum to you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate yourself, Yusuf, and Brother Muhammad. And we hope that we can have a nice discussion and basically help the audience overcome this massive propaganda, which is unfortunately driving the minds of so many people in blindness to what is going on.
Well, thank you. I mean, we've seen so many things happening, but more particularly since you are in the midst of it, there's been a massive uprising by university students, by campus students, and we are seeing this kind of fascistic behavior from the feds, from the police, from the NYPD. We've seen these attacks on students at the universities. Just yesterday, about 2 or 3 days ago, at the University of Michigan, we had students being attacked with batons, with pepper spray. What's been the role of the Neturai Karta in these protests at Columbia University, and certainly in relation to the kind of hardline Orwellian crackdown that has been implemented by the state, calling these particular groups which are calling for peace as hate groups?
First of all, let me do this very small correction. I am presently in New Jersey, and basically, while I'm talking to you, I'm on my way to Princeton University in Princeton, New Jersey, joining a student rally for Palestine now while there's going to be a meeting, administration meeting regarding the demands of the students on the topic of divestment. Yes, we joined many activities outside of Columbia University in New York, many activities inside the encampment of City College of New York, and we joined so many other encampments in Canada and elsewhere. We admire the bravery of the students that stand up, as you mentioned, in this new strong wave to speak up against what is wrong, to speak up what is right, to speak up for the oppressed. And we say that the bravery of these students should be a lesson for the rest of the world to follow and to stand up to what is right. Unfortunately, this massive intimidation against the students, mainly based on this false accusation of anti-Semitism, saying that whoever speaks against Israel, whoever condemns the crimes of Israel, is in any way anti-Semitic. This is ridiculous. This has no grounds, doesn't make any sense. It's misleading and is dangerous. Because
Can
unfortunately,
I ask you one question on that, Rabbi? Is that I've seen these reports by people like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and a number of other individuals within the State Department, as well as the U.S. government, that have made the allegations that these are hate marches, that Jewish students and that Jews are in fear of these particular marches, and that these particular pro-Palestinian peace marches are indeed anti-Semitic and calling for the killing of Jews. You've been to these marches. Have you seen any of this? And if not, why such propaganda?
Okay, I have attended many of these marches with the students in relation to college campuses and in so many other pro-Palestinian demonstrations in New York, in the United States, in the world. And we do this already for decades. None of these activities have anything to do with anti-Semitism. And I always encourage people, and I ask people who approach me, and with this accusation that these activities are anti-Semitic, and I ask them, did you ever stop any of these demonstrators? Try to speak to them and find out what their point is and what they're promulgating for, what they're criticizing, what the whole issue is all about. And the answer is always no. They never approach these people. Now, one of these nice examples is the slogan which is being used from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free. Now, this supposedly is supposed to be like in the vision of pro-Israelis, that this is an anti-Semitic slogan looking for the annihilation of the Jewish people. This is totally false propaganda with no grounds to it. You just stop anyone in these rallies and ask them. All what this slogan is about the freedom of the oppressed people of Palestine. And contrary to some approaches that would be maybe willing to grant some rights to some oppressed people and come up with a two-state solution or whatever it might be, others disagree and demand and insist that all rights have to be restored to all oppressed people, which between me and you makes simple sense. Now, whether the individual agrees to this approach or prefers another approach, that's the choice of the individual. We can debate whether it is in accordance with full justice, but in any case, you cannot blame whoever disagrees as anti-Semitic. All they want total freedom. And I have to say that from the river to the sea, Palestine should be free. In other words, entire occupation should stop, and all Palestine should be restored to the Palestinian indigenous population. In no way means the annihilation of the Jewish people. It's not about the people, it's about the regime, it's about the oppression, it's about the occupation. Jewish people lived in Palestine before the 1920s. Yes, before 1948, there was already problems before the creation of the State of Israel, because Zionist provocations started way before they created the state. But before the 1920s, Jewish people lived in peace. Jewish people were protected and respected by the Muslim majority in Palestine. Now, there is no basis to say that Palestine has anything against the Jewish people. Yes, they are against the occupation. Yes, they are against a movement which was founded and is run, sadly, by some people from Jewish descent. But it doesn't make the movement Jewish, and it doesn't make the opposition to the movement anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic. The pro-Palestinian solidarity movement is against the occupation of Palestine, against the political state of Israel, which does not represent world Jewry. And this is a whole discussion for itself to understand how far away Zionism and the state of Israel is from the Jewish people.
I want to ask you one point on the protest, and then we're obviously going to move on to the substance of some of the other aspects of the discussion. Weeks ago at Columbia University, which is in fact the epicenter of the current movement, not too far away from where you're based, but President Minouche Shafik, in fact, called in the NYPD, which then arrested over 100 students. And we saw images, and then subsequently the same images were replicated at Berkeley, UCLA, where police came, they locked down the campus, and then mainstream media outlets like Fox News stated that the reason why the police were called in was that Jewish students and Jews in general feeling intimidated. Now, from your experience, you're Jewish, you're an ultra-Orthodox Jewish rabbi. Were these protests, did they have a large number of Jewish pro-Palestinian protesters within the actual movement itself? And why such heavy-handedness by some of the campus faculty, leaders, and indeed at Columbia, the actual president?
A very good point. Yes, there were many Jewish people in the pro-Palestinian solidarity activities, way more than before. In other words, recently it is growing enormously, the support of Jewish students or Jewish individuals for the Palestinian cause and against the crimes of Israel. But coming back to your point where the Jewish students on campus are being intimidated. Now, we have to be very clear. And I said this many times. I was asked what I have to say to those Jewish students complaining that they are threatened on college campuses. And what I said is as follows. If the individual insists to identify with the state of Israel, if the student insists on campus to raise an Israeli flag, they have to be willing to face the consequences. Obviously, naturally, some people will become upset. Now, this does not mean in any way that these students are threatened. I am not aware of any incident that a Zionist student would be threatened on college campuses. Yes, they might feel uncomfortable. They might face criticism to what they support. They might face opposition to the flag they're raising or the movement they are supporting. But listen, this is the price people naturally understand they have to pay for it. I say, on the other hand, that I disassociate myself from Israel, disassociate myself from the Israeli flag, and listen to this. I attend so many Palestinian conferences. I visit so many Muslim countries. I meet so many Arab governmental leaders or religious leaders, and nobody hates me. I have no problem, no intimidation at all. On the contrary, we as Jewish people face intimidation from the Zionist movement because of the stance of the peaceful and religious stance we take in opposition to the state of Israel.
You have been, and certainly in the Neturei Karta has always been for decades a proponent of peace and peaceful coexistence. And that's interesting that you say this, because at I think UCLA at Berkeley, it was the pro-Israeli students that had attacked the encampment. At the University of Michigan just 2 days ago, it was the pro-Israeli students who were given a free hand to attack the Palestinian encampment. And then you had the police called in and pepper spraying the actual protesters, and indeed using batons and assaulting them. So it's very much a kind of an inversion of reality, that the people who are calling for peace and an end to the genocide are being castigated and labeled as actually being haters, when in actual fact it's the opposite. I want to ask you, has the Netzwerk Qatar, because your voice is much needed, and when I see people like Dr. Phil McGraw and people like Rabbi Shmuley coming and being the so-called spokespeople for Judaism, it's really an aberration. Do you not have as significant a voice as a lot of these pro-Israeli Zionist propagandists? And what would you say is the Netzwerk Qatar's particular trajectory in terms of confronting and overcoming that challenge?
Well, those people have a voice, and they're using their voice, unfortunately, for evil. It was just, when was it, last week, when Rabbi Shmuley had a celebration for Israel on Israeli Independence Day in Times Square, and we were standing next to it on the sideline, and we protested it. Took him out of his mind, and he had to mention the Neturei Kat a couple of times in his ceremony, because he was so upset. Which, this is exactly why we were there. We were there to make the statement and to have to set the record straight. And people should realize that those Zionist spokespeople are not the representation of all Jews. If some people insist to support Israel, that's the choice of the individual. Sadly, they're supporting the greatest violation, the greatest rebellion against God, the greatest violation of Judaism, and a terrible violation of basics of human rights and oppression of an entire people. But at least the world should be aware that there is a strong voice opposing it. There is a strong Jewish community worldwide who are so upset to all what Israel stands for and disassociate themselves and are embarrassed when Israel or their spokespeople insist to represent all Jews.
Would you be willing to debate him? Because Rabbi Weiss is quite a global presence himself, but people like Piers Morgan and all of that seem to be attracting some of the most vile, repulsive, pro-Zionist, and indeed in many instances bad representatives of Judaism to actually present a positive case for Israel. Shmuley being one of them, and then of course you've got a lot of these right-wing evangelicals that seem to be, hogging the spotlight in a manner of speaking, but cool, calm, cogent, articulate voices of Judaism, Orthodox Judaism, like your group and like your members, are excluded by default.
Right. But all what we are doing is we are educating, we are helping the people overcome the propaganda, and at least people are aware that this is not Judaism, and this is not a representation of our religion or our people.
Fantastic. So let me get to the core of the issue here, is that, and there's different portions of it. I don't generally focus too much on the religious aspect pertaining in my discussions with Israelis. But as far as Jewish religious belief is concerned, that's, the core of our topic, whether Jews have a religious and moral right to a land called Israel. Jewish religious belief, as I understand it, defines the land or a land where Jewish religious law prevailed as being, something that was God-given. So if you look at, for example, in Genesis, Exodus, of course, Numbers and Deuteronomy, as well as later on in Joshua, as I understand it, there is this kind of, according to the book of Genesis as an example, as a starting point, where land was apparently first promised by God to Abraham's descendants. And the text is explicit that there was a covenant between God and Abraham for his descendants. Would I be correct, however, that is the ancient Israelites, and from a genetic point of view, they are different genetically and indeed linguistically from modern-day Israelis?
And not necessarily. In other words, the Jewish people, as far as we are concerned, according to Judaism, the Jewish people today are the descendants of the B'nai Yisrael, of the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Jacob.
But that said, we still have to set the record straight, because just to clarify the issues here, to start, we have to understand, which is very basic, and this has to be like the foundation, the start to any conversation, to any religious conversation here. Judaism and Zionism are not the same. Judaism is a religion, and a religion only, no politics to it, and no nationalism to it, versus Zionism, which is a purely political movement. There is no religion into it, and happens to be, according to the Jewish religion, is forbidden. But in order to be Jewish, we don't have a condition of having a nationalism. Like, for example, I am a Jew by the religion I follow, and at the same time, I'm an American by nationality. Now, there's no contradiction here, because Judaism, all what Judaism stands for is the religion. Now, I can be a citizen of whichever country. I can be an American citizen, I can be a Moroccan citizen, and I can be a Palestinian citizen. It doesn't affect my Jewishness whatsoever. Now, basically, what Zionism has done, it has transformed the basic definition of Judaism from a religion into a nationalism. Now, by doing that, they not only did so much harm to others, but they basically uprooted the essence of all what Judaism is. You would see today, you would find masses of Jewish people, unfortunately the majority of the Jewish people, that would have no connection with Judaism. They wouldn't follow any of the 10 commandments. And who speaks about the 613 commandments that every Jew should follow. And still they strongly believe that they are true Jews following Judaism. Why? Because they're good people and they support the state of Israel. Now, by supporting the nationalism, this is like the new definition of Judaism. And this is a real catastrophe for our religion. But if we go the next step to what you mentioned before about the Promised Land, the Promised Land is a true concept. But unfortunately, it's being misused in Zionist propaganda. Now, why do I say...
Okay, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you on that. Go ahead, I don't want to interrupt your train of thought.
Now, why do I say it's a true concept and still is false propaganda? Because they only show you one side of the coin. They don't show you the other side of the coin. And again, what I'm presenting here is very, very basics of Judaism. No disagreements. This was accepted by all Jews throughout all generations, without any exception, until Zionism. Now, the land was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his children. But, and here's the but that nobody speaks about, it was given to the Jewish people on condition. There is a verse which we just read last week on Saturday. Every Saturday we read one portion of the Torah through the year. And last week was Parshas Kedoshim, and we read it's twice in Leviticus, twice the verse which says, "And the land should not reject you because you defile it." God placed the Jewish people in the Holy Land on condition that they keep themselves and the land on the level of holiness God requires of them. Otherwise, they would be expelled from the land. This condition was made in the first place several hundred years after the Jewish people were brought into the land. And by the way, according to Judaism, the Jewish people were brought into the land by miracles, by God, and not by their physical power. This is basics of Judaism. Now, several hundred years later, God warned the Jewish people through the prophets, you are not doing what you're supposed to. Unless you repent, you would be exiled from the land. Unfortunately, this is what happened, and Jewish people were driven in exile. The temple was destroyed by the hands of the Romans at the time, but again, according to basics of Jewish belief that was accepted by all Jews, that this was a divine decree, God's decree. The Jewish people are required to accept, whether it's comfortable or it isn't, and that we are forbidden to end this divinely decreed exile by any physical means. We are forbidden to fight other nations. We are forbidden to return back to the Holy Land in mass immigration. Individuals are allowed, but not in mass immigration. And we are forbidden to end exile by any physical means. What Jewish people are waiting for. Yeah, please go ahead.
So Rabbi, just on that point, again, I don't want to break your train of thought because you've got us, kind of a trajectory in terms of which you're putting it. As I understand, then your point is that at this particular point, at this juncture, from an Orthodox Jewish perspective, Jews are supposed to be in a state of exile. in an exilic state. In other words, the fact that the temple was destroyed by the Romans, and of course prior to that by the Babylonians, is that position has to basically exist until the reemergence of the Messiah. Would I be correct?
Correct, and this will only happen by God Himself, without any human intervention, without any human power. Whatever is done by human power is haram, is non-kosher.
It's haram. So here's the thing. Now, it's already established that Zionism per se is a kind of a secular nationalist movement, and I think the kind of realization of the Zionist dream, particularly by people like Theodor Herzl in his book Der Judenstaat, a lot of the earlier Zionists, the earlier hardcore developers of the ideology of Zionism, it's now universally established that they were largely a-religious. They were not practicing Jews. A lot of them were atheists. I think Herzl himself was an atheist. Chaim Weizmann was not a practicing Jew. Netanyahu presently is not a practicing Jew. And in fact, surveys seem to suggest that many Israelis today are very secular in outlook and lifestyle. In fact, the largest gay pride parade festival in the world, one of the largest indeed, is indeed in Israel, in Tel Aviv. But here's the issue, is that despite that being the case, that this is largely a secular, nationalist, indeed one may argue an atheistic movement, a lot of Jewish Zionists, and indeed a lot of evangelical Zionists, and indeed a lot of secular atheistic Zionists still variously make that claim, strangely enough, that and Netanyahu himself has seen this, and I've seen this in an interview, they make the claim that Israel, the state of Israel, the national state of Israel, has a title to the land by divine right or by a theological, historical, and a kind of a moral grounding of attachment to the land unique to Jews. And that idea is basically justified by means of invocation of the ancient religious text, whether it's a Talmud, whether it's the Old Testament, which you clearly pointed out is not justifiable. My point is, how does one explain this dichotomy, the dichotomy in the idea that it's a secular, fundamentally extremist, but predominantly atheistic Zionist ideological underpinning that is justifying its very existence by appealing to religion, when indeed it is an irreligious ideology? How does one explain this conundrum?
Now, this is a very strong point you are making, because what we are seeing is, and I say this all the time, we have a secular movement which doesn't even claim to be religious, and as you say, some will argue it's not only secular, it's heretical, and this is what we are saying. And this very same movement is misusing that religion that they choose not to follow, and they misuse it in order to justify this forbidden movement and this criminal movement. Now, this is a total hypocrisy, and I apologize for not being able to explain this, because there is no way to explain this. This is hypocrisy, and people should realize how hypocritical all of this is. If they choose to be secular, then let them come with some secular arguments. Let them come with some legal arguments. If they want to use religious arguments, then they have to follow the religion in its entirety, not pick and choose. And then we have to sit down and study what the religion teaches. Now, I have to add to what I said before, that in addition to this very basic violation of basics of Judaism that I mentioned before, all of this was wrong, and all of this was opposed by the Jewish leadership way before anyone imagined that this is going to affect human beings. Because originally this was supposed to be supposedly this land without a people, for the people without a land. It'll bring peace for everyone, helping the oppressed Jewish people. Everybody is going to be happy, and it's going to be peaceful with everyone. And even at that time, this was vehemently opposed by the vast majority, almost the entire Jewish leadership at the time. But it took some time to realize how criminal this is and how oppressive this is. And I always say it's not only what was done to the Palestinian people is not only a blatant violation of international law, of basics of human rights. These are violations of Judaism, because killing and stealing, oppressing an entire people, all of this is not acceptable in Judaism whatsoever. Now, this is unacceptable. This is anti-Jewish, and we're just coming back to that very same point, that you're having a secular or a heretical movement misusing a religion to justify a movement which is so contrary, in whichever way you look on it. It is in total contrast to the basics of Judaism.
So if for example that is the case, that is predominantly that Zionism as an ideology is dominated by forces of a secular, atheistic, nationalistic basis, then I mean this would be a classic example of the Jewish religion being used as a kind of a tool for political expediency. But then what would you then say about the existence or the rise of indeed a Jewish far-right extremist clique, or indeed one would argue a sect? You know, people like, for example, Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg. He's, for example, made the point, I think in the 90s, he's written about the kind of historical entitlement that Jews have to the whole land of Palestine. I mean, the whole land of Israel. You know, his idea about the Jewish control of that land has obviously, you know, cemented the idea for some kind of popularity within, you know, the West Bank settlements, you know, which they call Judea and Samaria. But these people like him and many others, you know, Meir Kahane and all these individuals, where would you put them in the spectrum? Would you categorize them as aberrations of Orthodox Judaism, as kind of you know, extremists, or the ISIS variety of Judaism? How would you categorize these religious figures?
Well, certainly I will say so. I will say that they are the far extreme radical segment of the religious Jewish people. It doesn't mean that I'm going to judge each individual. So many people unfortunately don't know any better. They were so indoctrinated into their approach by others, again. But regardless whether we can judge the individual, this movement is in no way representing Judaism. And you know, whoever just looks on what is happening, justifying, like even if they would have some claim to the land, would that mean that everybody standing in their way should be annihilated and exterminated and killing everyone? Now, how in the world can one tolerate that? It doesn't make any sense. And just misusing verses, misusing concepts, misusing text to justify a political movement is not only unjust, it's criminal. Basically, it's criminal not only against the people it's oppressing, it's criminal against the entity they are misrepresenting, because they are misrepresenting the Jewish people and misrepresenting the Jewish religion. This is an embarrassment to our people and a desecration of God's name.
Can I just add something, if you don't mind, Yusuf? Rabbi,
sure.
You mentioned something very profound, and it really hit me to the core, because we have the same kind of verse in the Quran in Surah Ma'idah 5:32, and this verse is actually addressed to the children of Israel. Whoever kills an individual without any justice is like killing all of mankind. Whoever saves one life is like saving all of mankind. And this is in Surah Ma'idah in 5:32. And it actually is, we decreed upon the children of Israel that whoever saves one life is like saving the whole of mankind. And whoever kills one person without unjust cause is like killing all of mankind. And like the verse that you mentioned really kind of like mirrors the verse that we have in our scripture. So we are on the same page as you are. Sorry, Yusuf, I just wanted to add that because I really kind of like was a profound verse that the rabbi mentioned. So guys, go ahead.
It says in Judaism, "Kol Makayim Nefesh Achas Mi Yisrael," Whoever saves one life is like saving the entire world.
Yeah, that it mirrors exactly what you've got there. The Quranic, in fact, that's what the Quran states, that it was ordained. God ordained to the children of Israel, and you've got parallels of that within your particular scriptures, and indeed the Talmudic literature itself. And that takes me to the point: the kind of systematic massacre, the clear genocide that we've been seeing, the fact that there's this brazen lack of care and concern, the callousness that has been employed by a lot of these Israelis in killing, in exterminating Palestinians and Palestinian children. I mean, where does this kind of where does this lack of ethic, this lack of humanity come from? Because it kind of parallels to a large extent what was happening in Nazi Germany. And I mean, some people have even made the argument that some of the earliest Zionist terrorist death squads, like Irgun, like Haganah, the Stern Group, the Stern Gang, all of these were the forerunners to eventually the IDF. A lot of them, in fact, indeed had, to a certain extent, links with Nazi Germany. I think I saw it's Nur Rabbani, one of the writers, or Nur Masalha, made the particular point that a lot of these death squads that were created in the formative years leading up to the eventual bombing into existence of the state of Israel in 1948 had, to a certain extent, links with Nazi Germany. And you see the kind of same behavior that was enacted by Nazi Germany during the eventual Holocaust in the Second World War. That kind of attitude, that behavior, that kind of callous disregard for life, the policy of starvation of an entire population, that seems to be kind of an incarnation of what Nazi Germany did in the Second World War. Ideologically, it seems to me then that Israel is a kind of an illegitimate bastard child of basically the British, and indeed, in terms of its practicalities, it's fulfilling what Nazi Germany did in the Second World War, at least at a very initial level.
Now, to explain how these people get to this far extreme level, it's a very good question. Basically, what we say is that when people leave God, when people go away from God, unfortunately, they are losing their morals as well. These people dropped God and his religion, and unfortunately, look how far, unfortunately, they went. But I might explain this a bit just for people to understand a little bit what's going on. I'll explain this with a story. I was once on a plane. I was on a plane from London to New York. And I come into the plane and I sit down on my aisle seat, and there is another gentleman sitting at the window seat. I say hello. I sit down. There is an empty seat between us, and I fall asleep. I wake up a couple hours later, and suddenly we end up in a conversation. Oh no, it started by there was a Haaretz newspaper on the seat between us, and I realized who my neighbor is. He's obviously a Zionist. And then we went into a nice conversation. I tried to explain him what we have to say in accordance to Zionism, and how contrary Zionism is to Judaism, how inhumane it is towards the Palestinian people, how criminal and how anti-Jewish it is. And then he goes by saying, regardless whether you are right or wrong, which is an achievement, isn't it? Regardless whether you are right or wrong, I'm never going to give it up. And I told him, I'll explain you. I know exactly where you come from. And what I said is as follows. There's a great difference between me, a religious, observant Jewish person, and you, with all due respect, a secular Jew. Because all what makes me Jewish, all what defines me Jewish, as I explained before, is the practice of my religion. That's all that makes me Jewish, regardless where I live. Versus you, all what makes you Jewish is only your Jewish nationalism. Because you have no connection to the religion. Now, if this Jewish nationalism comes under question mark, then what happens at that point is that your Jewish identity goes under a question mark, which is a true tragedy. And I understand exactly where you come from, because you cannot tolerate to give up your Jewish identity, and you shouldn't. A Jewish person should never give up their Jewish identity. But this tragedy doesn't happen today when we discuss an issue and we come up with some questions that question the national movement you identify with. This tragedy happened 100 years ago when Theodor Herzl came and started the movement of Zionism and transformed, or attempted to transform Judaism from a religion to a nationalism. At that point, they have destroyed the true Jewish identity and replaced it with something criminal and something anti-Jewish. Now, why I'm telling you this story is because sometimes we have to understand where these people come from. Some of these people, and forgive me for saying this, I believe that some of these people are innocent. They don't know any better, and they struggle within themselves with this identity crisis. They have a real problem with their identity. And it's very difficult for people to overcome this, especially non-religious Jewish people. They struggle to overcome this because they're almost left without anything. But again, this doesn't justify anything. And again, I'm not explaining, I'm not answering the question what you asked, how to explain how far these people go, because there is no explanation. Unfortunately, this is evil to the core, and there is no way to justify this other than just raising massive propaganda and to drive people crazy and to have people just blindly support Israel without thinking, without analyzing anything what is taking place.
Just on the interesting point that you made, and I want to kind of pick your brains on that particular issue, is I understand that modern Jewish religious tradition, at least from the Israeli point of view, may not make this particular distinction. But does the Torah, as I understand on my reading of it, particularly the Pentateuch, does it, from your perspective, make a distinction, and certainly applying it in the modern context, between a religious, national, racial, or ethnic identity? Because, the problem that I seem to be having is that whenever, for example, when Netanyahu describes himself, or extremists like Bezalel Smotrich, or the far-right fanatic terrorist Itamar Ben-Gvir, they describe themselves as Jewish, but not just in religious terms, but also racial terms. But would I be correct, Rabbi, that being a Jew is not a racial definition? It's a religious definition. It's not a national ethnic definition. If you look at the writings of Arthur Koestler and so on, you had the Khazarians converting to Judaism, but they were Caucasians. Would I be correct that distinction should be there, but in the Israeli context, it doesn't seem to exist?
You are exactly right. And as I said in the beginning, all what Judaism is about a religion. There is a quote from Rabbi Sadi Gon, one of the very great Jewish scholars going back hundreds of years ago, and he said, "Ein emusaini imo elo b'Torah." Our people are a people only by the Torah they follow. This is all what makes us Jewish. Yes, there is a concept, and we have to be careful here how to present this. There is a concept that if one was born from a Jewish mother, they are automatically required to follow Judaism. But that's not the definition of a Jew. The race is not making the person a Jew. It happens to be that the Maimonides, who was one of the greatest scholars in Jewish history, he writes that if a Jewish person lacks the belief in one out of the 13 basics of Jewish belief, that individual is no longer considered part of the Jewish people, which doesn't mean that he's not required to repent. Yes, he's required to repent. To that extent, he's still Jewish, that God requires of him to be Jewish and to follow Judaism. But as long as he decided not to be part of Judaism, he's no longer part of the Jewish people.
Mm.
Now, again, as you said, Judaism is not a race, Judaism is a religion. And the Jewish person is the person following the Jewish religion. And what happened is, with this secular movement, the secular movement dropping the religion in its entirety, or at least partially, they had to have a new definition of Judaism in order to justify their Jewishness. But this is a new definition, this is a new movement, and in no way can represent traditional Judaism or what, you know, I always say it's my grandparents and your grandparents, all Jews throughout all generations, disagreed with today's how the Zionist movement is presenting the Jewish people or the Jewish identity.
And that's really fascinating that you say this, because that core distinction is not known. I mean, you could theoretically have a Chinese Jew. I mean, you had within Palestine, during the British Mandate and during the Ottoman period, you had Arabs who were racially Arabs, but they were Jewish by religion. But, today's society, unfortunately, even in mainstream secular press, they make the racial distinction between Palestinians and Jews, when in actual fact, you had Palestinians, Jews existing. And then the point being made behind this is that it seems to me that you then, the reality of the situation is that you had these atheistic ideologues, people like Weitzman, Hetzel, and all these characters, who were, originally they come from Jewish backgrounds, meaning their forefathers were practicing Jews, but for them, being Jewish was just simply part of their religious heritage, but they were not practicing Jews. They used Judaism, they used the Jewish religion, they used another religious term of kind of importance, Zion, Jerusalem, to coin the name of their movement, which they called Zionism. And just letting the train go by. What it appears to me, Rabbi, is that, and tell me if I'm correct, is that they consider the term appropriate for their secular political movement of Zionism, and then in fact appropriating even the Jewish term itself, the Jewish identity, as somehow the other inherently racial, as a basis for creating this kind of settler colonial occupation. Because a lot of them were Europeans, but the aim of Zionism was the basis of creating these European colonial settler movement to live in a land which was anciently occupied by the Israelites. And the only way to justify it was that they appropriate religious terminology for that particular purpose.
And right. But again, look at what they are doing is they're misusing a religion or religious concepts to justify, first of all, a secular movement, which should never be the case. But it's basically justifying the actual violation of that very religion they are misusing.
How would you define Israel, the modern state of Israel? I'm not talking about ancient Israel concept, but the modern secular nation state of Israel. How would you define it in one word?
A heretic, criminal, non-Jewish movement, anti-Jewish movement. And when I say anti-Jewish, I mean anti the religion and anti the people. And this is a discussion for itself to explain how bad and catastrophic the movement of Zionism is, not only to the Jewish religion, but to the people.
So from a moral point of view, then, in terms of, for example, claiming some degree of legitimacy in terms of land justification, would you then say that someone who is European or American, albeit considering himself or labeling himself Jewish, he may be a practicing Jew or he may not be a practicing Jew, would you say in either situation, would they have a moral claim to a particular land, to land in Israel, or would their very presence in the land of what was Palestine or what they now call Israel, would their very presence in itself from a religious point of view be illegitimate?
if the question is religiously, no, they have no claim whatsoever. If they want to live in Palestine, as Jewish people did, individual Jewish people lived in Palestine for hundreds of years. If they want to live there, they should take permission from the people living there, from the governments ruling in the land. And if they get the permission, that's fine. And if the people want to immigrate to the United States of America and they take permission from the American government, that's perfect. And if they want to immigrate to Morocco, that's fine if they get the proper permission. But having a religious claim to the land because they are Jewish, even if they are practicing Jews, and because they are practicing Jews according to that religion they practice, they have no religious claim to it.
I think that's one answer, but I think also another point is that what I mean is more particularly as an ethno state, that has absolutely no religious justification. I mean, even from a moral point of view, it would be illegitimate. Would you agree with me? As an ethno state ruled by Jews itself, or people who claim to be Jews, albeit they may be atheists or religious for that particular matter, but they would have no moral claim to that. Would I be correct?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by asking a moral claim. Now, you cannot have
a moral claim in the sense that firstly, the establishment of that created a refugee crisis and led to the ethnic cleansing of about 900,000 indigenous Palestinians. And of course, the creation of the state was basically illegitimately. We had the UN partition plan, of course, the formation of the 1948 borders didn't even go according to that. They took more than what the UN partition plan basically claimed. But I'm saying, leave aside the religion on the one hand. We understand from a religious point of view there's a level of illegitimacy, but from a moral standpoint, in terms of the existence of a nation state, even in a secular sense, would you make the argument that this would be wrongly constituted, that in itself it should be disbanded, that the state of Israel should be disbanded as a secular nation state?
Well, certainly, because this was founded on the account of the indigenous population. So many people were killed and so many people were displaced, and this was intentionally done from the very beginning. This was wrong from the very beginning, and there's no way to justify it. No, this was wrong in the beginning. This has to stop. If we wake up today and we are willing to admit that all crimes that were done is wrong, then we should simply stop all of this. If we want to act moral, then we should be moral people, and Jewish people should act moral, and this is a requirement of a Jewish person. And all of this should stop. There is no moral justification for all of this. Now, let me say, yes, Jewish people went through a very difficult experience at the Holocaust. It was my grandparents, the grandparents of my communities, and these stories in each and every corner where you go amongst our communities, they would have stories from the Holocaust. Yes, Jewish people were desperate at the time, and Jewish people needed a place where to live. But God forbid, on the account of other people, to oppress other people because we were oppressed. And I say this all the time. On the contrary, it's because we know what suffering is. It's because we feel what this pain is all about. We don't want and we shouldn't want to see this happen to anyone. And especially we shouldn't be those committing these crimes. This is ridiculous. There's no way to justify this.
What is it, Rabbi, about the state of Israel, or rather, if I could call it Israeli Hasbara, that has for decades, until of course recently, and I believe that there has been a shift in global media, but what is it about the Israeli secular nation state that has been so successful in being able to portray its settler colonial occupation as a kind of a struggle between Jews and Arabs, and at the same time it's enabled it to weaponize and politicize anti-Semitism when justifying its human rights abuses, war crimes, and its crimes against humanity? How come it's been so successful?
I think that you answered the question in the very beginning of your words. You said the Hasbara. this massive propaganda machine, which has the microphone already for decades, and at least until not too long ago, they had the sole only microphone, and all what was heard was only the Zionist voice, and then they come with their their version of the story, and the Palestinians never existed. Even today, it's a little bit difficult to believe this, but at least for decades they came with this argument. And then what you're saying, the anti-Semitism accusation, they say that the Arabs hate us and they want to drive us into the sea, and they play on the emotions of the people. And I experience this. I see this amongst Jewish people who don't believe in Zionism, people who are against the Zionist movement. Some of them are still influenced by the fear that the Palestinians want the harm of the Jewish people, which doesn't make any sense, doesn't have no basis to it, and it's pure propaganda. But I have to say that when you're talking about the anti-Semitism accusation and silencing whoever speaks up against these crimes against the movement of Zionism as being anti-Semitic, and we say this always, and especially in the last couple of weeks since this student movement on college campuses, silencing the voice of Palestine, silencing the voice of justice with the accusation of anti-Semitism is not only doing injustice to the students on campus who deserve the freedom of speech. It's not only doing injustice for the oppressed people of Palestine who deserve our voice to speak up for them and to stop the oppression they are going through. This is doing injustice to the Jewish people as well, because when you conflate Judaism with Zionism, when you conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Judaism, you're making a statement. You're making a statement that all Jews, God forbid, support the movement of Zionism or the crimes that Israel perpetrates. And that is basically making a statement that all Jews are accountable to all these crimes. And this is dangerous for Jewish people as well, in addition to all Nakba catastrophe inflicted on the Palestinian people. And it's not only this anti-Semitism accusation, it's basically all what Israel stands for in acting as Netanyahu insists that you call it the Jewish state. He insists that he represents all Jews. Now, by doing that, he insists that all Jews paid the price or face the hatred and the danger that some people from Jewish descent do. And that is dangerous for the Jewish people, in addition to so much calamities and so much catastrophe done to the Palestinian people. And therefore, this is one of the reasons why we say that the state of Israel is dangerous for the Jewish people. And we don't need a state of Israel to protect us, because we can live in Palestine, we can live in each and every Muslim country as we lived before all of this started. We can live in peace, we can be protected as we were protected and respected. We don't want a state of Israel to endanger everyone involved. We have to remember the state of Israel is not only a danger for Palestine, it's a danger for everyone involved, including the Jewish people. Whoever stands up against the movement of Zionism would be attacked, intimidated, tortured, and killed, regardless whether they are Palestinians, Arabs, or Jews.
I think it's fascinating you make that point, and particularly with anti-Semitism. And I may just add one thing, that even Arthur Balfour, the founder of the Balfour Declaration, was in his earlier years a notorious anti-Semite. You had that a lot of anti-Semites initially were in favor of the creation of the State of Israel, particularly in Britain, because it would lead to the expulsion of Jews to their own particular land. So in a bizarre kind of way, anti-Semitism mirrors the ideology of Zionism. They play off each other, and that Zionism would not exist without the existence of anti-Semitism. And it's the irony of ironies that Jews were welcomed in Muslim countries prior, and anti-Semitism was essentially a European colonial problem, a problem amongst the Germans, the British. Muslims and Jews always lived side by side. I mean, historically, the the Renaissance of the heights of Jewish Renaissance was in Muslim Spain, and not during the reign of Christianity, as an example.
Right. It's important to note that Theodor Herzl, the founder of Zionism, wrote in his diary that he needs anti-Semitism in order to be successful. And the Zionist movement did spread anti-Semitism in European countries to make Jewish people uncomfortable and to have them escape and immigrate to their new supposed so-called Jewish state.
I just want to ask you one thing, and of course it may be controversial, but and as speakers and both myself, Brother Muhammad, we condemn any kind of attack on anyone, whether it's Jews, Muslims, or Christians. But the common argument has been in relation to the Palestinian resistance and indeed Hamas that it's particularly its military wing, that its whole goal and its whole aim is just extermination of Jews per se. But as I understand, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that Rabbi Weiss, and I'm not so sure whether yourself, you've met, would I be correct? You've met with the Hamas leadership, am I correct? In 2009, 2010?
Yes.
Did you in any way, I believe you met with the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, did you in any way find him to be anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish on a personal level?
To begin with, I have to say that I'm not a lawyer of any group, and I'm not here to present, to advocate any group, sure, regardless of which side they are. But it happens to be to the question that you're asking. Hamas, in our personal experience, and I say this in public, and I say this to the Jewish people, they have nothing against the Jewish people. And here's the quote that Ismail Haniyeh said to us in a private meeting. And right afterwards, in a public press conference, CNN from the United States was present and they didn't air it. And he said, we are not against the Jewish people. We have nothing against the Jewish people, neither against the Jewish religion. We are against the occupation. Saying that these people are anti-Semitic is purely Zionist propaganda, because the movement of Zionism has no answer to the points that these people are raising. The only answer they have is this false anti-Semitism accusation, to accuse whoever speaks up against Israel, whoever does anything or whoever says anything against Israel, that the only thing they want is against Jews. This whole conflict which is going on has nothing to do with the Jewish people. On the contrary, if the Zionists insist that they represent all Jews, and they do enough propaganda that people should believe them. Now listen to this. That actually directs people to hate all Jews, because those people originally have nothing against the people, the Jewish people. They are against the crimes being committed by some people from Jewish descent. But if you confuse the issues, if you insist that all Jews are on the same page and all Jews support all what Israel is doing, then sadly, obviously, people will hate all Jews. And this is one of the points that we are fighting so strongly against, that we refuse to allow all Jewish people to be misrepresented by the Zionist movement, and we refuse to allow the Jewish religion to be misrepresented by the Zionist movement.
I understand, Rabbi, that your time is limited, and so I'm going to wrap this up. But I just want to ask your comments on the recent arrest warrants that we haven't had time to discuss. But your thoughts on the arrest warrants issued, or at least applied by Karim Khan at the International Criminal Court. Do you think it'll see any kind of fruition? Because in all probability, I mean, the United States has given its indication. Matthew Miller, the spokesperson, Admiral John Kirby, they've all condemned the ICC. It seems that when the ICC or the International Court of Justice is only applicable to tin pot dictators in Africa, but when it comes to people like Netanyahu, anyone that's an ally of the West, of American imperial power or American imperial ambition, then it's wrong, it's immoral. I mean, the same people who supported the arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin are now making the claim that the ICC has got no jurisdiction on Israel, but it had no jurisdiction on Russia, and yet they supported the claims. So it's this hypocrisy that you see manifest large by, I mean, these are really devious, evil people out there that do a disservice to both our religions and worldviews.
Now, again, this blind support to Israel is sad and dangerous to all. Whether what's going to happen in the future, whether this is going to be successful, we can only hope that justice will prevail. But regardless what is going to happen, what is a definite positive outcome of all of this is that the world is seeing what is going on. No wonder that people wake up in the last couple of months way more than before. People see what's happening. People see what's happening in Gaza. People see what's happening in The Hague. People see how Zionist propaganda is working, and which is showing for people how wrong all of this is. Now, this is only helping people overcome their past ignorance. How quick this is going to make effective change, nobody knows. We hope that things will move much quicker than it does. But you know, it's the duty of each and every righteous person on planet Earth to do everything they can for God, for humanity, and especially for the oppressed people.
Well, I want to thank you for that, Rabbi. It's been a privilege having you. I want to thank just getting the train pass through. I see you in a pretty busy, but I like the sound of the train. I want to thank you for your contributions, and I want to thank your voice that is giving spirit to the voiceless and the oppressed out there. Brother Muhammad, any final parting words to the good Rabbi? Because
I just want to say, yeah, absolutely, Rabbi. It's been an honor having you. The audience have loved you. I have really enjoyed your company, and I'm hoping that we can continue maybe this communication with us, and maybe hopefully we can do something off stage right now. Contact each other on a regular basis. We need to get this voice out, and this is when I done the monologue at the beginning of the show, brothers and sisters. We need to get this message out. This is being smothered by the main media outlets. We need to show this to the world, that Muslims and Jews and Christians can live in harmony and in peace. And the Rabbi is a beautiful example of that. And I really hope you guys in the chat have enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. That's the only plug I'm going to say, Brother Yusuf. But Rabbi, it's been an honor having you. I've really enjoyed this discussion, and it's been a pleasure. Really has. Thank you, Brother Yusuf, and Rabbi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. And we support you in your, I believe you're going to a
Thank
university.
You very much. It was a
college
pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much. You take care.
Sure. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being with you.
No,
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Wow. I think the Rabbi is going to shoot off. I think he's got a protest or a march to go to. So, guys, please follow the Rabbi. I don't know if he's got any social media outlets like X or anything like that. Please check out the Rabbi. It's been amazing, brothers and sisters.
You can check out the website, www.nkUSA.org.
If you want to put it into the private chat, and I can then put it onto the main screen, and then that way people can click onto you.
Excuse me again?
So if you put it into the private chat, if you want to, and I can cut and paste it and then put it onto the main, I can then put it onto the main screen. Does that help?
I will send the link. It's www.netraikarta.
It's Anas and Nancy, NKUSA. And then you have links to the social media platforms.
Oh, yeah, got it. Awesome. Copy. Yeah. Fantastic.
Great. Anyway, thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much, and you take care. And that's the website to get to for those who are interested in going there. Till then.
See you soon. Thank you so much.
See you soon. Thank you very much.
Sure, bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm just going to remove the rabbi because I know he's got to shoot off. But yeah, once again, amazing. I really appreciate his company and his insight. His knowledge is amazing. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to remove him now. But nevertheless, myself and Brother Yusuf are here. We really are calling out to everybody in the chat and everybody who will watch this in the future to like and subscribe to the channels, because I really feel that a certain YouTube channel or network is kind of like stopping this information and kind of blocking it. So we need to portray this. We need to inform the world that, look, the Jewish people are good people and we need to work together, like the rabbi has mentioned. And we have so much in common, and to negate this hatred, we can work together, inshallah. Brother Yusuf, what's your take? That was a really beautiful, mashallah, interview.
Indeed, I thoroughly believe we need to give people of this nature and caliber voices, because their voices are being they're being blocked out by the mainstream media. And I think even on social media, on YouTube, the social media space is dominated. The kind of algorithms dictate what kind of content goes out there. And these kind of conversations are not happening, even, sometimes within our own Muslim communities. Unfortunately, and I see this all the time, and I just saw this strangely enough, I don't want to mention the individual or the channel's name, just a couple of days ago, there's so much of this refutation culture where existing da'is and speakers who may have some sort of disagreement with each other just go out of their way to just want to engage in this culture of refutation, what I call this refutation culture, trying to run down the next individual as opposed to coming together and sorting out our differences. And in the process, then you've got legitimate voices, like in this particular instance, are basically muffled out. I mean, the rabbi should be out there, and we should give people of this caliber a voice to speak out against the oppression and the injustice, and to essentially show that even from an Orthodox Jewish perspective, the state of Israel is an absolute aberration. It is a curse. It is a crime. He called it out there. Those Jewish or Christian Zionists out there, you have an ultra-Orthodox rabbi calling this
a
criminal state. Absolutely.
We have one or two of them in the chat already. He's just.
I hope they were listening. I can't see the actual chat or their particular comments, but I mean the reality of the situation is that from a religious point of view, that is from a scriptural point of view, a biblical point of view, Israel has got no right to exist. From a moral point of view, that is looking at it purely from the perspective of the fact that it was formed on the basis of ethnic cleansing and exterminating 900,000 Palestinians, and now obviously reaching a crescendo, not even seen during the first Nakba. It is immoral. And from the perspective of a nation state, from an international humanitarian law perspective, it is violating almost every single law under the sun. So on all those levels, on all those particular categories, you can't justify the existence of the state of Israel. The irony of the situation is that, as the rabbi quite rightly pointed out, it is the atheistic, secular, Zionist ideologues who have absolutely no interest in religion, that don't believe in God, that somehow or the other, at the end of the day, attempt to justify their particular beliefs and existence of the state of Israel on religious grounds, on actual religious grounds. And I just want to make this particular point that may not have been made, is that from the perspective, from the actual perspective of the existence of a Jewish nation state, the Jews itself, or at least the ancient Israelites, were not in actual autonomous control of the state of Israel, at least up until 1948, for more than 5,000 years. For more than 5,000 years. I mean, Palestine has never been under Jewish autonomy for at least 4,000 years. For 4,000 years. I mean, in 1000 BC, if you want to talk about religion, you want to talk about archaeology, from 1000 BC, in the Persians came in about 500 to about 300 BC. You had the Greek period, the Hellenistic and the Hasmonean era from about 332 to 64 years before the Common Era. That's the so-called birth of Christ. And then during the birth of Christ, who did you have? You had it under Roman rule. And it wasn't just simply Roman rule. You had the early Roman period. You had the late Roman period. You had the Byzantine period. And then you have, of course, the Arab dynasties, with the rise of Islam in the conventional religious sense. So Jews have not been in autonomous control for at least 4,000 years. 4,000 years, up until 1948. And those Jews that eventually took control of this particular land were Europeans, were in many instances what we would call Ashkenazis, meaning they were descendants of Jews who lived in Central or Eastern Europe. And they were from the Caucasus region. They moved and settled in Germany in the Rhineland in about the 10th century. And so essentially you've got a settler colonial occupied state by Europeans. And not surprisingly, therefore Finkelstein and Nur Rabbani and Nur Masalha and even Ilan Pape call Israel and describe it as the last settler colonial outpost in the 20th century. I think the problem with Israel is that its settler colonial occupation came too late. If it had happened in the 17th century or in the 16th century, maybe they would have got away with it, but it was too late. When it was formed as a settler colonial outpost, it was the last settler colonial outpost, and it came and emerged at a time when the whole concept of colonialism had already attained a dirty name. And I think that was a problem with Israel. But as the good rabbi pointed out, there's absolutely no legitimacy to the existence of the state of Israel. And here you've got an ultra-Orthodox Jewish rabbi, folks, those Christians and Jews or Zionists in the chat. You've got an ultra-Orthodox Jewish rabbi who states that the state of Israel as it exists needs to be totally disbanded. And he's met with Hamas. He's met with Hamas. These Jews, these ultra-Orthodox Jews, have met with Hamas. They've met with the leadership of Hamas in 2009. They met with Ismail Haniyeh. And CNN was present in the meeting, but CNN conveniently never covered it. Yeah. So this also belies the actual notion, and I'm not a supporter of Hamas or a great fan of Hamas.
I really want to continue with this show for another 20 minutes if it's okay with you. I just need to get myself a cup of coffee and I'll be back in 2 minutes. There are some Zionist Christians want to jump on and oppose this type of stream. I don't know how you feel about putting the link out for one or two of them to maybe join and have a discussion. But I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'm just getting myself a cup of coffee, inshallah.
Sure. All right, sure. Indeed. Definitely. So for those out there who are basically listening to this particular stream, and we certainly live, Muhammad's gone out for a particular coffee break. Just coming back to the point I'm making is that Israel as it exists is an apartheid state. It's a state that is formed through massacre. It is land that is regularly taken by settlers on the West Bank. It's an apartheid state. If you look at the existing law of return, if you look at the law of return, any American, any British, any French, any Russian Jew, or person who claims to be Jew, whether he's Jewish in practice or Jewish just simply in name, meaning he's nominally Jewish, his father may be Jewish, they all can get Israeli citizenship. But actual Palestinian refugees, Palestinians who've lived in the land, who've been kicked out of their land, from their land of origin, have no right to basically get into Israel. And if they do, they will be arrested if they essentially enter Israel. So the whole point is, for those out there, is that this idea which the good rabbi mentioned about Zionism is that it began as an atheistic secular movement. It began as a struggle over control over the land of Palestine between the indigenous Palestinian Arab population and the invading Zionists, because the Zionist movement was essentially established as a European political movement. It's a European political movement, a movement by whites, the same white extremists who, in the South African context, kept blacks at the lowest level. This was driven by a racist political ideology to establish an exclusivist ethno-Jewish state in Palestine. And so the realization of this, and if there's Jews and Zionists in the chat, I don't have control of the stream, but if Brother Muhammad is back, we can get you on to make your particular points to defend this bastard illegitimate state. But the reality
the link has been pinned. The link is in the chat.
I just want to make this point that this realization of the Zionist dream necessitated the displacement and dispossession of indigenous Palestinian, Arab, Muslims, and Christians who had lived in Palestine for about a millennia and owned 93% of the land. So now you have a situation where Zionist goals, which are aided and abetted by the United States, by Britain, by France, by Germany, and Russia, were accomplished in 1948. But before 1948, where essentially you had these Zionist Jewish terrorist death squads like Irgun, like Stern, like Haganah, that were going out and massacring Palestinians. I mean, Rishi Sunak, those Britishers, you know Rishi Sunak, your waste of space boy, British Prime Minister, couple of months back, I think, he went and stayed at the King David Hotel. Well, the King David Hotel was bombed by Zionist extremists in 1946. So he goes and stays in a hotel where British servicemen and British diplomats and his own British citizens back then were murdered and mass murdered by a terrorist group that became the forerunners of the IDF. And this is a reality, is that as the good rabbi pointed out, is that you've got this weaponization, you've got this politicization of anti-Semitism when it's justifying its human rights abuse, when it's justifying its war crimes, when it's justifying its crimes against humanity. And let me put this out here. There is nothing anti-Semitic about condemning Israel's massacres. There's nothing anti-Semitic about the fact that you're speaking out against Palestinian land and property that belong to Palestinians that have been stolen, and they continue being stolen by Israeli settlers from 1948 up until this present day. In fact, who gives you the term to call yourself a Semite? If you're a white European, you're not a Semite. You're not Semitic by any means. You may be Jewish by religion, and you could make the claim that somebody is being possibly anti-Jewish against yourself, but you're not Semitic. The Semites are the people that live in that particular land. So as a European Zionist, as a European Jew, or a person who claims to be nominally Jewish, you have no right to make the claim about somebody being anti-Semite when you're not a Semite in the first place. In fact, I urge you, and I urge some of the individuals, get a copy of the book by Shlomo Sand called The Invention of the Jewish People. It's called The Invention of the Jewish People, by Shlomo Sand, and this, in fact, basically goes on to deal with this in detail in terms of what has happened and in terms of how Judaism as a religion became essentially weaponized by this illegitimate state of Israel. So the point at the end of the day is that if anyone wants to come on the stream, the first point we want to need, and we need you to speak out against, is that we need you to condemn the state of Israel for committing genocide.
Yeah, we've got a brave soul.
Okay,
He's known as Adam. He's been on my channel numerous times. I don't think this will end well. But anyway, I'm going to bring you on now, Adam. I know your camera's not working, so we know who you are. I'm bringing you on the stage now. So,
yeah, guys, how you doing?
All right,
we can hear you.
Have you on here, mate?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, just some verses in the Quran. I'd love to go through them, and then maybe you could clarify what they say.
Yeah, we can go into the verses of the Quran, but the first thing I want to ask you is, regardless of the verses in the Quran or the Bible, do you condemn Israel's genocidal campaign against the Palestinians?
What do you mean by genocidal? Is firing missiles?
Do you know what the definition of genocide is? Are you familiar with the definition of genocide?
It's taking out a people, isn't it?
Sorry. So right now, my government, the South African government,
people.
Yeah, taking out of a people. My government has basically filed an application to the International Court of Justice on the 29th of December,
taking in
where it has basically. I beg your pardon?
Okay.
Do you condemn the fact that Israel is engaging in a campaign of genocide against the Palestinians? It's a simple question. Do you or do you not?
I mean, are they taking in Palestinians? Is anyone taking in?
Who's taking in Palestinians? Who's taking in Palestinians? Genocide has certain criteria. Number one, killing. Number two, causing serious bodily and mental harm. Number three, mass expulsion. Number four, deprivation of access to adequate food and water. And number five, deprivation of access to adequate shelter, clothes, hygiene, and sanitation. But more importantly, Adam, listen to me. More importantly, genocidal statements attributed to official Israeli leaders. Do you condemn that?
Okay.
It's a simple question, Adam. Do you condemn the genocide that is being committed against the Palestinians by the Israelis?
I'm listening to you, bro.
You're listening to me. I'm asking you a question. You came on this air and you basically made a comment. So I ask you a question before we go in.
I've given you a really simple answer. No. I've said no. I've said. I mean, I don't know if my microphone's working, but I'm saying no.
Your microphone is working, but you're eating up. It's like you're eating up your words, Adam. Okay, let me make it simple for you. Let me make it simple for you.
Why?
On the 28th of October, on the 28th of October, 2023, Prime Minister Netanyahu stated, the so-called Minister Netanyahu.
No, listen.
He said, "You must remember what Amalek has done to you." And we do remember. And then again, he referred to Amalek on the 3rd of November, 2023. Now, my question is, do you see that as a statement of genocidal intent by Minister Netanyahu?
I mean, doesn't Hamas say that their whole government doctrine is to kill every last Jew?
No, where does it say that? Can you show me where the Hamas charter says that?
Well, you know about that, the Hamas Charter 1987.
No. Don't say I know about it, because what you're doing now is whataboutism. I asked you a question. We can deal with Hamas Charter. I asked you a question. Did the Prime Minister state, Adam, hold on.
Yes, it does. I edit it
Hold on, Adam. You're engaging in whataboutism. I asked you a question, firstly, before we go to your issues. Do you condemn the fact that Israeli officials have communicated a specific intent to commit and persist in committing genocidal acts and failing to prevent them since October 2023? Do you or do you not?
And how should they respond to people coming in and murdering people left, right, and centre? And for rocket attacks?
By murdering babies? Are you saying that they should murder babies?
What do you mean murdering babies?
So according to the reports, there's 15,000 children that have been murdered by Israel since October.
It's horrible. I think it's horrible. I fully understand that.
No, it's not horrible. No, Adam, stop lying to yourself. You know what's horrible? Adam, stop lying to yourself. That's horrible. It's not. Adam.
Stop talking.
Stop lying to yourself. That it's horrible. Stop lying to yourself. What is horrible is a flood. When people die in a natural disaster, that's horrible.
Yusuf,
this is mass murder.
Yusuf, I know you like the sound of your own voice. I like the sound of mine. Can I hear my own voice for a second? Is that okay with you?
I asked you a specific question. Are you willing to condemn the expressions of genocidal intent against the Palestinian people? It's a simple question, and you're not answering the question.
How is it genocidal intent when people are casualties of war? According to them, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. According to Hamas, it was 100-to-1, but they've lowered that figure. So is it
100-to-1? So Adam, am I understanding?
Yusuf.
No, I'm trying to understand your position. Are you saying that these are casualties?
Listen. Let's just hold ourselves to the same lens. When they have an iron dome over them and people fire multiple rockets, if they don't have an iron dome, is that attacking civilians or is that attacking the army? Take away the iron dome.
You're engaging again. Hold on. Adam, you're engaging in whataboutism.
Just be logical here. If you take away the iron dome and you count all the rockets that have been fired, are they aimed at civilians or are they aimed at targets?
If you look at the official Hamas, if you look, can you let me answer? If you look at the, you want an answer? Do you want an answer? Or you don't want an answer?
I want the truth, mate. People can hear.
Do you want an answer? Or you don't want an answer? Do you want an answer? Or you don't want an answer? So the Hamas officials have mentioned. Firstly, these rockets are not actually rockets. They are basically glorified fireworks in any event. But from the perspective of Hamas, you're laughing. You're laughing like an imbecile. Adam, listen to yourself. Stop embarrassing yourself on this channel. You're laughing like an imbecile. You're laughing like an imbecile. Stop embarrassing yourself. According to Israeli officials, they've made the particular point that the rockets that were fired by Hamas had absolutely no significant military firepower and were easily neutralized. That's not the point. But what moral equivalence is that between, for example, Hamas firing rockets and Israeli? No, can you answer? Can you let me finish the point? Because you asked me a question. What is the moral equivalence between Hamas firing rockets and Israeli soldiers shooting dead Palestinian children, for example, at the Abu Shadia GAZA school and at the Jabalia refugee camp, and indeed at the Flower massacre, where starving Palestinians were running for food and they were shot dead in cold blood by Israeli soldiers? What's the moral equivalence between the two? Explain that to me.
Okay,
can you explain the moral equivalence? Okay. Can you explain the moral equivalence, Adam, between, for example, when the Israeli... Adam, let me finish the point because you asked me a question. Let me finish the point.
Give me the answer.
No. But
cities.
Yeah.
Which
hasn't reached the cities. So there's a moral equivalence. So there's a moral equivalence between Hamas firing. No, hold on. Let me try and understand you. You're saying that there's a moral. You're saying that there's a moral equivalence between Hamas firing rockets against Israel, which is neutralized by the Iron Dome, with Israeli soldiers shooting. No, let me finish the point. Let me finish the point. Adam,
your brain is. No, stop talking. Adam, I can talk over you, bro. We're both good at debating.
No, Adam, you won't be able to talk over me. This is not your chat. What is the moral equivalence between Hamas firing rockets and Israeli soldiers shooting dead Palestinian children in cold blood? So when people in the Flower massacre, do you support that? Do you support Israeli soldiers shooting dead?
I don't support death, bro.
So it's the same thing. Okay, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So will you condemn Israel? I'll condemn Hamas. Will you condemn Israel?
Hold on. He's saying that he condemns death, but your God was killed on a cross, and you praise that. So what are you on about, Adam? What are you on about? You thank the fact that your God was killed. And you're saying that you don't kind of like people dying and death. Adam, come on, you've got to deal with this.
Adam, explain. I'm trying to. Adam. Okay, Adam. Let's assume that's bad, right? Although the Hamas rockets have been explained to be neutralized by the Iron
rockets?
No, Adam, stop embarrassing yourself. Stop embarrassing yourself, Adam. Listen to me.
Using that word. I'm not embarrassing myself just because you.
No, you are. You are, because you are creating a moral equivalence between. You are saying there's a moral equivalence. Adam, you are saying there's a moral equivalence between rockets which are fired by Hamas, which don't kill any Israelis, to Israeli soldiers shooting dead Palestinian children in their heads. Okay. So they're not trying to kill. Hold on a second. So Adam, when Palestinian children are being shot by Israeli soldiers, are they not trying to kill them? When Palestinian children are being shot dead by Israeli soldiers, is that by accident or is that by deliberate intent?
What happened on the 7th?
Adam,
what happened on the 7th
when Palestine? Okay, you want to know what you want to do?
Louder.
Okay. You want an answer to that? You want an answer in terms of what happened?
Yeah.
Adam?
Adam. I tell you what, Adam. Yeah, we do one question. You posed a question to Yusuf right now about October the 7th. Now have the decency and the respect that you claim that you have. Let Yusuf answer the question. So Yusuf, the question was regarding October the 7th.
Adam, are you listening to yourself, Adam? You asked a question about October 7th, right? Did you ask that question? You asked me what happened on October 7th. You don't know what happened on October. So I'm now giving you an answer in terms of what happened on October 7th, right? Adam, are you there?
Yes, talk.
Adam, are you there? Are you there, Adam? Can you hear me? Do you want an answer in terms of what happened on October 7th?
I would love an answer, please.
Okay. Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to listen, and are you willing to basically
teach
be
me,
taught
Rabbi?
about this?
Teach me,
I'll teach you about this. I'll teach you. I teach boys like you. Listen to this. So what we were told on October 7th. Sorry? Well, I'm just a few years older than you, so that's fine. Okay. You sound very young. Okay, so here's the situation.
Yeah.
What we are told, there's two perspectives. Firstly, we were initially told in the mainstream Western media that Hamas entered from the southern part of Gaza and entered various perspectives and various kibbutzes in Israel and engaged in massacres. And they gave the figures as 4,000. They then mentioned that Hamas engaged in the burning of civilians. They then mentioned that Hamas basically engaged in the beheading of babies. And they then engaged in the propaganda and lie that Hamas basically engaged in what we would call mass rape. Those were the initial stories. Subsequently, no, let me address. You want an answer? Subsequently, those particular elements have been. That is wrong. Well, of course, if that happens, I'm giving Adam.
According to Allah's word, is that wrong?
Adam, if that happened, that is wrong. If that happened, that is wrong.
No one
from an Islamic perspective. Now, listen to me, Adam. Listen, if that happened, that is wrong. No one from an Islamic perspective can justify that. However,
what about Allah's perspective? What about from Allah's perspective?
Well, we can justify it from a biblical perspective because Numbers 31, verse 17 speaks about sanguinary warfare and gang rape. But that's another issue. What we do now know is that there were no beheaded.
That's
Adam,
bad, isn't it? Is that
okay, let me just share. Let me share this. Let me just say. I just want you to watch the screen here. I just want to share some screen. Are you able to see screens here? Can you see a screen?
I can see screens. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just share something for you. I'm going to share something here. This is an individual called Yossi Landau. Can you see this? He's a leader of a group called Zaka. Zaka was the leader of Yossi Landau. He's an extremist, a Jewish extremist, and he was in fact responsible for concocting what we would call Israel's worst atrocity propaganda about October 7th. The first point we do realize, number one, there were not 4,000 people killed. The actual figure was 1,139 that were killed on October 7th. Number two, that's the first point. So it's 1,000, that's the exact figure. Number two, out of the 1,139 people that were killed, about approximately 700 were civilians. The rest were military officials. That's number two. The third point, which people now know, is that there were no beheaded babies. In fact, there was only a single baby that was killed in rocket fire. But more importantly, what we do now know is that the story of beheaded babies and the story of basically mass rape or systematic mass rape, which was spread by this individual called Yossi Landau from Zaka, he's now conceded in an interview with Al Jazeera's investigative unit that the dead bodies that he previously claimed to... Let me finish the point, Adam. Let me finish the point. That the dead bodies he previously claimed to have seen in the kibbutz Be'eri were not children. So what I can see is this, that it is lamentable, and certainly we do not support it, that Hamas indeed did shoot civilians, but Israel killed its own civilians on October 7th when they invoked the Hannibal Directive. Because when Hamas was taking hostages away across the border, Israel then invoked the Hannibal Directive, and you have a situation where Israeli officials have confirmed on record by the Haaretz and the Times of Jerusalem that they, in fact, the Israeli military Apache helicopter gunships opened fire and burned, for example, the convoy of vehicles. And so you have a situation where Mark Regev, in his interview with Mahdi Hassan on MSNBC, confirmed on record that there were about 200 bodies that they initially thought were burnt by Hamas, but they now realize that they were actually not burnt by Hamas, that they were actually Hamas soldiers. How he made the distinction, I don't know. But he confirmed on record in an interview with Mahdi Hassan, and this is Mark Regev, who is the official spokesman for the State of Israel, confirming on record, which was confirmed by the Haaretz and the Times of Jerusalem, that Israeli Apache helicopter gunships opened rocket fire, not in crossfire, but unilaterally, invoking the Hannibal Directive on both the hostages that were being taken away, as well as by Hamas operatives, and engage in a mass burning. That's the first point. The second point, the mass rapes that people were talking about, there was only one official story that was covered by the New York Times by a journalist by the name of Jeffrey Gettleman. And he wrote it in an article called Screams Without Violence. And he spoke about an individual called Gal Abdush, a woman that was allegedly raped. That woman, Gal Abdush, her family members have come out and have condemned the New York Times article on the basis that the official story about her being allegedly raped, her own family have refuted it on the basis that prior to her being shot dead in the crossfire that was engaging on that particular day during the various kibbutzes, she had spoken to them a few minutes before she was being shot. Even her own husband or her partner confirmed that she was not raped. So what you see here is that there is a series, indeed, Hamas killed civilians, they shot dead civilians, that we do not support. But what we do have is a situation is that where there's a series of atrocity propaganda, is some of Israel's worst atrocity propaganda was invented by an individual by the name of Zaka, for a chap called Yossi Landau. These are individuals that they confirmed on record. Let me finish the point, then you can speak. He confirmed on record again and again that the very justification of Israel's brutal and military assault on particularly the refugees in Palestine was based on atrocity propaganda. For example, the lie that 40 babies had been executed by Hamas. Biden lied about seeing photos of beheaded Israeli children. We know that that's a fabrication. There were no beheaded children, in fact, shown. And in fact, the White House confirmed on Wednesday evening, the evening after Biden made the claim that he had seen photos, that there were actually no photos of dead babies. So what you see on October 7th is that certainly there was the Operation Al-Aqsa flood. Hostages were taken away. Certainly Israeli civilians were shot, but not of the scale and the caliber of the atrocity propaganda, which speaks about beheaded babies, which was false, which spoke about Hamas burning civilians, which was false, because Israel burnt their own civilians, as well as Hamas operatives invoking the Hannibal Directive. And of course, that there was no mass rape. In fact, there hasn't been a systematic or a single forensic evidence of any kind of mass rape that occurred on October 7th. There was only one article that the New York Times came up with, which was the allegation of the rape victim called Gal Abdush. And there's an interesting article debunking Screams Before Silence, which was based on the New York Times article, Sheryl Sandberg's 7th of October mass rape film. So coming back to the point, that what happened on October 7th is very different from what you may basically be given to believe, or alternatively, what you've been brainwashed to believe to justify the slaughter of the Palestinians. But even on the assumption, let's assume the worst case scenario. Let's assume the worst case scenario that it did basically happen, which it didn't. What gives Israel the right to shoot dead Palestinian children in cold blood and men and women? Can you explain that? Now I've spoken, I'm asking you. I'm giving you an answer to your question.
So Adam,
how do you justify Israeli soldiers shooting Palestinian children in cold blood?
No, I just
you have the audacity to come on this forum and ask me about the Quran when you don't have the decency or the moral proclivity to condemn mass murder. You're a shameless individual.
So Adam, you asked a question. Adam, 1 second. Yeah. Look, Adam, you asked a question and Yusuf answered for about 5 to 6 minutes. He answered it. Adam, he gave you sources. Okay, Adam,
5 or 6 minutes. I'll take 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay, but now is his chance now to ask you a question, and you'll have
Bro,
the same
let me
time
talk.
to.
Let me
No, it's
talk.
not your
Adam.
This is
It's not your
no.
show
Hold
for
on,
you
hold
to
on a
talk.
second, Adam. This is not your Adam. Listen to me. This is not you come on this program, and we've asked you to go and condemn Israeli genocide. You haven't had the decency in all this time that you've been on this forum for the past couple of minutes to have the moral proclivity to come out and condemn and state, as I've stated, because I've spoken out against Hamas where they've targeted civilians. You haven't had the moral proclivity to state that where Israeli state officials have communicated a specific intent to commit and persisting in committing genocidal acts and have articulated that, you haven't had the decency to condemn it. What does that say about you as an individual? Now I'm asking you again the question, are you willing to condemn the Israeli Minister of Defense, the Prime Minister of Israel, the President of Israel, when they make no distinction between the Palestinian civilian population and indeed Israeli soldiers? Are you willing to speak out against that?
How can they make a distinction when people don't wear uniforms? When the children in primary school, let me talk now, please. Yeah. Thank you for listening. I try not to interrupt. I know I struggle sometimes. How it's quite difficult to make distinction between civilians and the army when there's no uniform, when they have no military bases, when they use tunnels underneath the ground, and the child population in Palestine is extremely high. So in war, we have casualties of war, and what you must understand is that you'll never look into the eyes of someone God doesn't love. We pray for people on both sides. I'm Christian. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
No, but you have a duplicitous standard.
It's fine.
Adam, you've got a duplicitous double standard when it comes to Israel.
Listen,
this is the problem.
Stop using big words and let me talk. You do, bro.
No, it's not a question of using big words. You have a duplicitous double standard when it comes to the state of Israel. Why are you condemning mass murder and you using it
double
to
standard is a big word, guys.
What?
Double standard is a big word, right?
Are you saying human shields?
Just stop talking and listen to yourself. Yes.
But no, this is not your forum, Adam. We are entertaining your nonsense on this forum.
Youssef, why don't you come on my channel? You can debate one of my friends of 5 years who was there on the ground because he's a special force agent. He was there on the ground.
Well, bring him on. We can have a formal
Why
debate with him.
Why don't you come on my channel? Why don't you come on my channel and you can have a formal debate with him? Because he was there.
We can set up a formal debate. But I mean, you raised the point, right? Hold on. Don't run away, Adam. Don't run. Don't run away, Adam.
Bro. I'm not.
Okay, so you raised the point. Okay, so I'll let you talk.
No, listen. Listen, I've not finished talking. Thank you. I've sent my email. We're going to set up a formal debate with my friend. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But I want to deal with the issue you raised right now.
Can I deal with it? 5 minutes, 5.
No, don't run away, Adam. Now, don't run away. Don't run away right now. Adam, are you there?
I want to talk. I haven't finished.
Okay, so you asked a question about not being able to make a distinction between. You raised a point. But I just want to. I'll give you the time. I just want to just clarify one thing. You raised a point now. No, Adam, you raised a point about.
No, I haven't finished talking.
Okay, but I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify. Just a snap. I just want to clarify one point.
No, I don't need to talk. No, you haven't. You're not.
I want to clarify now. I'll let you talk. I promise you. I'll let you talk. I'll let you talk. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I haven't finished talking.
Okay, go ahead.
Have I?
Okay, go ahead.
No, but I just wanted to talk. No.
Then talk, Adam. We're giving you an opportunity.
Go ahead and talk.
Oh, man.
Talk. Go ahead and talk. We're letting you talk.
You talk more than I do. No. You said that 15 minutes ago. Thank you so much. Okay,
talk. Ask the question.
You have all the nations coming around Israel using the Palestinians as a human shield. Iran funding proxy wars all over. You have all the missiles fired from all over. Okay, do you think that the Palestinians are victims of Iran, are being used as shields and funneled in fighters into that area and using the civilians as human shields, and the countries around them are blocking them from leaving, blocking civilians from leaving that area, causing mass casualties, digging in and fighting out of civilian areas and using them as human shields. Do you believe that they are setting the environment for huge civilian casualties and not letting people escape and causing this through their tactics? Take the floor.
Is that your question? Is that your question? Okay, the first point, and that's what I wanted to clarify from you, so we can have a decent conversation on this issue. When you say they are being used as human shields, are you saying that these Palestinian civilians? I'm going to answer you, but it's a snap. I want clarification before I give you an answer. Are you saying that these Palestinians are, and because I'm looking at an objective critique of the human shields charge, because it's a serious allegation. Let me answer you. I need clarification. Adam, are you saying, firstly, just as a clarification, then I'll give you a full answer. Are you saying that the Palestinian civilians... Adam, where art thou? My question to you is, firstly, I'm answering that. I just want clarification, a one-line clarification and I'll answer. Are you saying that from your allegation, are you saying that the Palestinian civilians are being used as human shields by consent or by force? Because if they're used by force, then if for example, as I'll give you an example, just an analogy, if someone is in your house and is holding you up, robbers, and now people can't come inside because they're holding you up as human shields, and then the police come and the army come and they blow up your entire house and kill your whole family, would that be logical and fair to engage in? I'm just trying to understand your position, because if you're saying they are being used as human shields, are you saying they're being used as human shields by Hamas by consent or by force? Because if a robber, I'll give you just one. Wait, Adam. I'm giving you one example. If a robber, Adam, I'm going to clarify because I've got a good answer to this. If a robber or criminal comes to your house and holds up your family.
Look, they're fighting out heavily populated areas.
Adam, I gave you a practical analogy. I gave you a practical analogy because the human shields argument has been totally debunked through legal statements. You are laughing like I'll give you. Okay, you want to hear? You want to hear? You are laughing like a baboon, but I'll give you an example. I'll give you the facts. In 24, okay, let me give you the facts. In 2014. Under the onslaught known as Operation Protective Edge, Amnesty International.
1976, mate.
No, I'm going from 2014 right up until now. Amnesty International objectively assessed the charge that was rendered ad nauseum against Hamas. And then in 2019, they were asked to do the same. And they stated that several of the actions which had been discussed, such as storing munitions in civilian buildings and so on, may have possibly occurred in the given circumstances, but they found no authority. They found no authority and no practical evidence demonstrated by the Israeli regime that Hamas authorities or Palestinian fighters directly or physically coerced individual civilians in specific locations to shield combatants or military objectives. In fact, when Amnesty International did the investigation, the irony is that despite the fact that the Supreme Court of Israel prohibits the practice of human shields, Amnesty International found, and I'll give you the article now, in an article report done by the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem, they made the argument that contrary to Hamas being said to use Palestinians as human shields, Israeli soldiers were continuing to occasionally use Palestinians as human shields during military operations. For example, between 2008 to 2014, B'Tselem and a number of well-informed reporters from the Haaretz newspaper gave 17 documented cases of Palestinian children that were used as human shields by Israeli forces. Do you want to see that particular report by Amnesty International? In fact, I'll give it to you right now. It's a report that's been done in Haaretz, It's a report that's
No,
been
I
done
don't
by
want to do
976 magazine.
Yeah,
And
No, you can't
besides,
handle the truth. Yusuf,
no, you
cannot
can't. I'll
handle
give
the
it to you
truth.
now. Adam, listen. You don't want me to scream at you like a child, Adam. You're a 37-year-old man, but you behave me like a child in nappies. Do you want me to give you the article where the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the occupied territories, together with Amnesty International, as late as 11th of November 2017, made the final assessment that it was the Israeli soldiers that were using Palestinians as human shields. And here's the one point:
Yusuf,
even
are you Muslim?
even if one
Are
were
you
to
Muslim?
adopt the Israeli, Adam, please
Yusuf,
stop
are you
jumping.
Muslim? Can
It's none of your
you
business
show
what
me
I am.
any scripture? Can you show me any scripture from your noble Quran that says that land is not for the Jews and the Jews would not return to it and they should not turn back from fighting?
Adam,
Instead of talking nonsense
Adam,
out of your arse, go tell me
you
what
asked
Allah
the
said.
question. Adam, you asked a question about human shields. Now that I'm
Go
answering you
talk
and
about
rebutting
what
the rubbish,
your
jumping to
scripture
something
says.
else. No.
Come on my channel. We'll
We're going to
blow
finish
you up.
this point. No, we're going to finish this point. If you want to have don't let them set you up for a debate with me, because trust me, if you want to have a formal debate,
Yo, bro, Yusuf, come on my channel, man.
We'll
go 5 minutes.
I will be far less kind with you than I am right
Yusuf,
now. I
you have
promise
no
that.
idea
I
what
will
you're
really
walking
humiliate
into.
you. But I want to just raise this
trust
point
me.
here.
Yo, listen, Mohammed.
Even if we
can
were
I
to
debate
adopt
or not?
No. Can I just raise this point? Because you raised human shields, now you're jumping.
You want a debate?
Adam, listen. Hey, even if you were to adopt the Israeli frame of reasoning about human shields, their justification for killing civilians through the precepts of human shields faces a number of hurdles. For one thing, it's strongly
using bad language. He's using bad language. I don't want that.
Has he used bad language?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
What did he say?
Said the F word, and he said S and all the SHIT word, and he said the F word.
Did you say that, Adam?
He's backstage. I've put him backstage. So you want to bring him back on?
This is a rubbish. Keep him backstage. Keep the scumbag backstage, because if he's going to use violent words, I was harsh with him right now. That's because he didn't want. I just want to raise this particular point with him. You see, what this character Adam, and this is how they behave. This is how these Israeli scumbag, pro-Zionist scumbags behave. And I'm calling him a scumbag. It's not an abusive word, but I'm using it as a fact, because no person with any kind of moral decency will support mass murdering children, which Adam has done. But here's a problem with the human shields argument. Adam is saying that these Palestinian civilians are being kept as human shields by Hamas. So I asked him a question: are they being used as human shields by consent or by force? He couldn't answer that. However, give him the sake of the argument, let's assume they are. That justification for killing civilians through human shields faces a number of hurdles. And the one thing, it suggests that Israeli government actually takes no moral offense to targeting civilians and merely views them as collateral damage, which Adam is saying that they are collateral damage. Essentially, they haven't even entertained the possibility of eliminating the enemy without killing civilians in the process. So the human shields argument is fundamentally flawed, because it fallaciously assumes a kind of asymmetry of power, and I hope Adam is listening, between the so-called belligerent sides. So if you, for example, look at it from an objective term, the Israeli side enjoys military and strategic superiority, but it also uses its absolute firepower to totally bombard and destroy civilian areas and neighborhoods in Gaza indiscriminately. So, for example, when they bomb schools, when they bomb hospitals, and they kill people, they know they're going to kill people. But then to make the argument that this is because they're human shields, it's an immoral argument, because it's illegal under international law. But here's the one point which I wanted Adam to see, and I hope I can share this. I'm going to share.
I've booted him from the studio. He's writing rubbish in the chat now. This is Adam. This is the Christianity, the true face of Christianity coming out right now.
Yeah, this is a true face. This is how Christians behave when they are basically caught out. I mean, as you can see, once I started asking him about the human shields, he then has the audacity to ask a question about where in the Quran does it say Jews have no right to occupy the land or to take over.
You know, this particular
What
individual.
kind of argument is
Yusuf,
this? Where in South Africa, where in the Quran does it say that I, as an Indian, have no right to be in South Africa? I mean, this is a kind of garbage and hogwash that we have to put up with. But I want to.
The horrible thing is, Yusuf, I just want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
He posted a verse in the chat, and he adds "i.e. Palestine" in it himself. But that the term Palestine is not even in the. Regarding Surah Ma'idah 21, and if you go to verse 21, the term Palestine is not even in there. So this particular individual has put Palestine. He wrote it himself in the verse, trying to make it out that it's actually in the Quran. It's not in the Quran. So Adam, you really are such a.
I mean, you know, these guys are clowns. Maybe I was a bit harsh on him, but I could be more.
No,
harsh.
You're perfect. You're too soft on it.
But the problem that I've got here, the problem what I've got, which is this issue here, and because the aspect, the allegation of the Quran, I mean, that's absolute rubbish in any event. But the one point that comes out very often is the aspect of the human shields. That look, these are collateral damage. I'll give you one example. And Adam, if you're listening to this, I hope you listen carefully. Israel possesses a particular special unit. That special unit is known as the Sayeret Matkal. In other words, they've got the ability to particularly launch a special operation to save hostages from the tunnel that they are confined to. But the problem is that Israel is not doing that. They're engaging in untoward aerial and ground shelling operations that have indiscriminately killed people in Gaza. You know, there's carpet bombing that has basically taken place. The reality of the situation is that it's not the Hamas that are using Palestinians as human shields. It's Israel that is using Palestinians as human shields. For example, in the West Bank, when you see these raids that are taking place in Jenin or the Jenin refugee camp in the West Bank, what these Israeli swines do is that they take these Palestinians and then they carry them with them in the operations. And then they put them in front of them. So if they enter a suspect's home, in order to avert military firepower or resistance or legitimate shooting back by the Palestinians who live in their own homes and want to defend themselves, they ensure that the Palestinian that they've kidnapped as a hostage is shot dead first. Now, that's a direct, forcible usage of Palestinian civilians as human shields. And this has been done by Israel. It's not been done by Hamas in any way, shape, or form. In fact, Amnesty International made the point that there was no systematic evidence whatsoever that the Hamas was using them. And I mean, even if we were to take this argument from Adam's point of view, right? Let's assume you've got a violent shooter that goes to, I don't know if Adam's got a family, but let's assume there's a violent shooter. Adam's not at home. A violent shooter comes and they enter Adam's house and they barricade themselves in the house. And then they take all Adam's family hostage, his children hostage, his mother hostage, his children, his wife hostage. And then in response to that particular crisis, you've got the British police and you've got the British Special Forces and you've got the British Army. And they decide that, look, you know how we're going to basically get rid of these particular robbers and criminals in Adam's house? They're going to blow up the whole house. Now, what would Adam say if they were to do that? Such a course of action, if that were to happen, that would be a basic violation of the most basic code of ethics. But that's essentially, and Adam would condemn it, but that is essentially the logic of the Israeli military, because the Israeli military dictates is that they have to destroy the entire infrastructure. They have to eliminate the threat. And so the death of, whether it's 100 civilians, whether it's 1 million civilians, that's just simply collateral damage. Let me tell you something, Adam. There's a principle in criminal law called dolus eventualis. In terms of dolus eventualis, it falls under the category of intent. And in terms of this category of intent, and this is something we study under criminal law, and I'm teaching you something on criminal law. In the law of criminal law, which I practice daily, there are different forms of intention. There's direct intention, there's indirect intention, and there's dolus eventualis. And then, of course, there's dolus indeterminatus, which is something which you don't determine. Dolus eventualis basically holds, if you look at the actual definition of dolus eventualis, the legal definition of dolus eventualis, is that when you are targeting someone, when you want to kill someone, when you basically are engaging in any particular activity, whatever that activity basically means, and that activity that you're engaging in results, for example, in the death of a particular person, any particular person for that particular matter, and you're notwithstanding knowing full well that your actions will result in the death of that particular person, and you still go ahead and engage in it. In terms of South African criminal law and in terms of British criminal law, you are charged for murder. It's plain, direct murder. Even if you are raising the so-called human shields argument, even if you're raising the so-called collateral damage argument. And the problem that we've got here is that in the genocide application that was brought by the South African court, which I doubt Adam has read, I doubt any of these major commentators in the West have read, it doesn't only go and deal with that particular issue. And it's an 85-page document. I'll post it on the link, and then Brother Muhammad can share it with others. It has about close to 500 footnotes. It doesn't only deal with that, but it deals with copiously, again and again, specific statements of criminal intent of Palestinian children by Israeli soldiers, and particularly in the way that it's been conveyed. But beyond that, what about the Great March of Return in 2019? Let me share this. The Great March of Return in 2019, and let me share this. But this is directly from Amnesty International. I'm going to share the screen. And Adam, if the boy Adam is there, maybe it's your particular platform. I would have got him back and then probably given him another beating.
No, there are still one or two other people in the chat.
Yeah,
I have put the link.
This is okay. So the others are there. Those who are decent. I don't know. You can see this. This is in 2019, and this is directly from Amnesty International's website. What happened on the Great March of Return is that there were a series of protests, and what these protests did is that, look, these Palestinians who lived in Gaza were refugees kicked out from the Greater Israel, that land in the kibbutz. The Palestinian forefathers, their ancestors, their grandparents, they all lived there. So during the Great March of Return, the Palestinians peacefully went to the fence of Israel, entering Israel at Gaza, and they basically made a peaceful march, a peaceful protest march. And when they were peacefully protesting, Israeli snipers shot them. According to the Al-Mizan Center for Human Rights, according to Amnesty International, and this was at the earlier stages, this was in 2018, 150 Palestinians were killed in the demonstration. 10,000 were injured. 1,849 children, 424 women, 115 paramedics, 115 journalists. Of those injured, 5,814 were hit by live ammunition. According to Israeli media, one soldier was moderately injured due to shrapnel from a grenade by a Palestinian from inside Gaza, and one Israeli soldier was only killed by a Palestinian sniper. But the vast majority of the people that were killed were Palestinian, peaceful Palestinians demonstrating peacefully. Now, were there human shields? Were there human shields for Hamas in 2019? Because there was no Hamas involvement in the Great March of Return. And they marched peacefully to the actual borders of Israel. So what was a justification? What was a justification for Israeli soldiers murdering Palestinians who were simply marching peacefully? I mean, you need to be a sick, satanic, rotten scumbag yourself if you want to come up and start making all kinds of justification for such filthy, evil, satanic behavior. You're an evil scumbag yourself. I mean, anybody who justifies, for example, Jeffrey Dahmer killing his victims and dumping their body parts in his fridge, and he says, look, Jeffrey Dahmer was essentially justified in doing that. What would you say about the person? He's a sick human being. And not surprisingly, when I asked this character, Adam, I don't know who the hell he is. He wants me to come and join him on his
Yeah, we've
channel.
got another one. We got another one.
I don't know
now
who this
joining us.
character is, just to join on some silly channel. That's not my interest. If you've got a serious person that's out there, a serious Zionist propagandist that's willing to debate, you can have Brother Muhammad host this debate. You're going to get Professor Alan Dershowitz, get someone of substance, even Professor Benny Morris. And by the way, I'm in contact with Benny Morris. We can probably set up a reasonable, sensible debate. But no, Adam, unfortunately, when you come on this platform, you don't get the equal opportunity and time, particularly if you spew out garbage and you talk nonsense and you give this evil satanic laugh, because you're giving an evil, sadistic, satanic laugh. And you asked me a question about human shields, and I'm in the process of answering you on that particular question. And then you start asking me about something else, about something along the line is that the Quran doesn't prevent Jews from having a state, or some kind of nonsense along that particular line. I'm sorry.
We've got another individual joining us now who's brave enough.
Christ brings a sword. Christ brings a sword.
Very peaceful.
Hi. Peaceful individual. Christ brings a sword. How are you? Christ brings a sword.
I'm well. How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How's my voice? Is my too soft, or can you hear me all right?
Your voice is lovely. It's good.
Oh, thank you. What a nice compliment.
Thank you very much. I'm not there to attack people. How can I help you, sir? What's your
I'm just here to participate any way you want to. If you want to ask a question or get my opinion on something, I'm here.
Well, fantastic. Well, the first thing I wanted to get, I mean, we were discussing the aspect of, I mean, since I'm on the topic now, and I think it's on our screen, I think, is it still there, Brother Mohammed? I mean, I've just been discussing, I think it's still on the screen. What I've got here, because we had a character called Adam, you seemed like a sensible individual. There were many issues I'd like to raise, but I'll just raise this one point.
Are we talking about the biblical Adam or a person you know named Adam? Who's Adam? And what's the context when you say Adam?
Adam was the guest who came on before you, man.
Okay.
By the name. Yeah,
okay.
That's his name.
Not the biblical Adam. Okay.
We both believe in the biblical Adam, if you want to call him the biblical Adam. I'm just curious to know, as a Christian, you've got here a report by Amnesty International, which speaks about the Great March of Return in 2019, where Hamas was not involved, but it involved some sort of kind of mass civil disobedience march to the borders of Israel, where Palestinian refugees were basically walking and asking Israeli authorities to lift a kind of 11-year illegal blockade on Gaza. And they were basically mowed down in cold blood. There was no attack on Israel, but about 10,000 people were injured, 1,849 children, 424 women. And there were Israeli snipers and Israeli soldiers shooting dead these Palestinians in a context where there had been no attack on Israel. We just wanted to know what your thoughts on that would be.
They were actually aiming for kneecaps also. This particular event, they were trying to disable them and aiming for the kneecaps of the children, the women, and so forth. And they were boasting about how many people they kneecapped.
Well, maybe Sword in Christ could tell us that according to military experts, as well as forensic pathologists who reviewed the photographs obtained by Amnesty International, the wounds observed by doctors were consistent with high-velocity Israeli-manufactured Tavor rifles using 5.56 military ammunition, and other wounds bear the hallmarks of US-manufactured M24 Remington sniper rifle shooting. So this is not just simply Israeli settlers, but these were official Israeli soldiers targeting Palestinian civilians who engaged in a peaceful march where there was no actual act of physical resistance by Hamas or any other militant group. And I thought probably as a Christian, you'd be one of the first to condemn such behavior by this brutal Israeli force. Your thoughts, sir?
All I can say is, based on what you're telling me, it sounds like it was a horrible situation and nobody won.
When you say a horrible situation, I'm just curious to know, because when there's a flood or when there's a natural disaster, we normally describe that as a horrible situation like a blood flood or a tsunami. Would you be willing? I mean, we had a Jewish rabbi who was an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. He condemned Israel. Would you be willing to condemn the state of Israel for what they've done?
Well, it's a two-way street. Don't we have terrorist groups on the other side also inflicting harm? I'm not saying that Israel has a right to do this. Okay, I'm just saying, aren't we being lopsided in our condemnation of Israel as if they're just attacking innocent people who wish them no harm. That doesn't
Well,
seem
I mean,
right. That's not honest, because we know that the people who are demonstrating want to push Israel out of their land.
Okay, so let me try and gather this. At this particular march, the Great March of Return, according to Amnesty International, these were civil rights individuals. In fact, there were paramedics, there were journalists, there were foreign journalists, and there were Palestinians that had absolutely no association to Hamas. In fact, Hamas was not involved in Gaza's Great March of Return. It was a symbolic protest where they, just like the Gandhi's mass civil disobedience or the civil disobedience in South Africa, my country, where there was certainly an armed military wing of the ANC called the Umkhonto Sizwe, which engaged in atrocities, but there was also the peaceful element of civil disobedience. And this was a situation where there was no terrorist activity. These people, on a weekly basis, were systematically, peacefully protesting, going to the gates, not engaging in any kind of physical attack or violence against Israel, but simply going there with children, with adults, with medics, with professionals, with journalists. And these people were shot dead in cold blood by Israeli soldiers. So my question is, the same people who are raising the question of some sort of moral equivalence, why they're not bold enough to condemn Israel in a clear attack that was totally unprovoked, other than just simply a peaceful protest?
Well, they are at war with the people around them, with the countries around them and the people who want to wipe them out. So they're surrounded by the enemy. They're in a time of war. And when you're in a time of war, bad things are going to happen on both sides. And so just to condemn one side and not the other, I don't think that's really honest.
I accept the premise of your statement, but I'm asking you specifically in the context of this particular instance. Even in times of war, military combatants who have surrendered or given up or basically are not engaging in active hostility, there are certain international humanitarian law standards that need to be followed. But however, in this instance here, there was a peace, a particular period, and this is a Great March of Return, where there was no actual physical war between these Palestinian civilians and the Israeli state. Hamas had actually no involvement, and you had a situation where 1,849 children, and these are children under 10, as documented by Amnesty International, and between 18, 424 women, 115 paramedics, and 115 journalists were shot dead by live ammunition by Israeli soldiers and Israeli snipers. My question is this, is that if on the one hand, and you seem to be a good guy, you'd condemn any kind of acts of terror, why would you not be bold enough to say what Israel did on this particular occasion was an unlawful act of terror against innocent civilians who were just simply marching on a peaceful march to lift their 11-year illegal blockade on Gaza?
Well, as I said before, they're at a time of war. A lot of bad things are going to happen. I've seen much worse than this happen. We can say, oh, Israel, we need to condemn them and everybody force them to make peace and give up the land for peace. I know that's where it's going. And that is, and they don't want that to happen. And they don't want to, Israel, they don't want to give up. They don't want to give up any of their land. Okay. And they don't want to follow the international community. And so when there's this pressure on them to change and to protest, they're getting very nervous because they definitely are not going to back down. And it is a war right now because you got one side saying you've got to give up land, and they're saying I'm not going to give up land, and one side is going to prevail.
Okay, so let me ask you this question then. You say that Israel's at war. Am I correct? You are saying they're at war with the people around them.
Yes.
Do you agree with me that the people, let's look at the Gaza Strip. Do you agree with me that Israel's at war with the Gaza Strip, or engaged in war from your perspective of the Gaza Strip, with people, 70% whom are registered refugees on the Israeli particular registered documents? They're registered refugees from area that now constitute Israel. So the people that Israel is engaging in war with, or they claim to be at war with, are registered refugees on their own particular database or refugees from the area that Israel has kicked out from the land. So what do you say about that? And they are the people who've suffered the devastating consequences of the illegal blockade, in addition to the heavy toll of essential infrastructure and the debilitation of Gaza's health system and economy. How do you reconcile that from a moral point of view? Leave aside the religious point of view, because you could have a religion that tells you to kill every single person on earth. How does one justify that from a moral point of view? That you are at war with 70% of a population, 70% of whom are registered refugees from the land that you kicked them out from.
Well, there's a lot of land that these refugees could live on, and for them to have to choose Israel to live in their land. And then Israel says, we'll give you this piece of land, the Gaza Strip, and you can rule it your way. Even though it's on our land, we're going to let you rule it. And after they did that, of course, it turned into this horrible, terrible.
Okay.
Hamas. Let me finish talking. I let you talk. Let me finish.
No, but
Hamas okay? You don't like to hear the word Hamas means violence.
No, Hamas doesn't.
Hamas means violence.
No. You're missing the point. Hamas, from the Hebrew point of view, it's an acronym. Firstly, it's an acronym. Now, if you want to look at it from the perspective of Hebrew, Hamas, which was a term that was basically given to them by the Israelis, that their name is not Hamas. Their name is Al-Muqawwama Al-Islamiyya. So it's not Hamas. Hamas is the acronym which was invented by Israel and applied to them. They don't call themselves Hamas.
Everybody calls them Hamas.
No.
The whole world calls them Hamas.
No. Hold on a second.
And they represent Hamas.
Hold on.
They have no morals. No morals. The people in Gaza have no moral code.
I'll take that for granted for the sake of argument. Let's assume we do. But the point is that Hamas is a term that is basically being used by people, and conventionally we use that.
Accurate. It's very accurate.
Well, whatever the case is. My question to you still lies, and that is this: that the people that you claim that you are engaging in war with, Hamas was basically, they came to power only in 2006 and superficially. But the vast majority of people who live in Gaza Strip right now are not basically, they never voted Hamas into power, because 50% of the population, or more than 60%, are basically under 18. So those people who were there in 2006 when Hamas came to power, they were not there. But my question to you still stands, which you haven't answered, and I'm trying to ask you to answer this. 70% of the registered refugees, registered by Israel, are registered on land in the occupied territory, that is Gaza Strip, which is occupied illegally by Israel. They actually come from the land that is now known as Israel. What do you say about that? And they are the ones that have been kicked out from the land, and yet you claim that they want Israel out of the land when Israel, in fact, kicked them out of the land. Don't you see that as an inversion of reality?
Well, Israel did not kick them out of the land. That land was handed over to them during right after World War II.
Okay.
In 48, and the world community at that time. And
okay, what did 48?
Can I finish talking, or are you going to interrupt?
No. Hold on.
I'm trying to answer your question, but you don't want to hear it.
I just want to stop you.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you from now on. Okay.
You can interrupt me. What did 1948? What did the 1948 UN Partition Charter give to Israel? What did it give?
Israel.
What did it give?
The Balfour. I'm not an expert on this. I just know that.
You raised it.
Hold on.
You raised it.
You're not going to let me talk. You're just not going to let me talk, are you?
I'll let you talk. What did it give?
Thank you. From what I understand, and I'm not an expert, the Balfour Agreement was made way earlier in the century, right after World War I.
That wasn't my question.
Well, I'm trying to answer it. You just won't let me finish.
Well, so you don't know the answer.
Well, can you let me finish answering?
Okay, go ahead.
Because if you don't want me here, I can leave.
You came on this platform, and we.
If you don't want me, I'll leave. I'll leave right now if you don't want me. If you don't want me.
I didn't say I don't want you. I want to have a conversation. I want to understand. I want to understand how is it justified. Okay, go ahead.
Don't interrupt me. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. What were we talking? Now we were talking about. I've lost my train of thought now. I don't know what we were talking about. Whatever.
You said that, no. I'll help you. You said, I just want to let you finish this. You said that the UN gave it to them. Now I asked
yeah. Okay,
what did the UN partition plan actually give Israel?
After the Holocaust, do you remember the Holocaust? Do you acknowledge that there was a Holocaust?
Of course.
Oh, well, that's good. We have common ground. So there was this Holocaust that killed 6 million Jews. About, I think that was like 2/3 of them, right? So, or a third of them. And so then they got to move back on their land. You know, nobody was living there practically. It was, you know, very sparsely populated. From what I understand, there was nothing really of great value that anybody really wanted there at the time. So it was not a big deal. But even so, the Balfour Agreement gave Israel a much greater portion of land than they ended up with. They cut it down to size over time. And so Israel just accepted what they were given, but now the international community wants to continue to slice it up, and they want to create an Israel where at its thinnest point, they only have a 10-mile buffer zone between the water and the what do you call it, the other side, they call it the West Bank, and so that's indefensible, and really a country shouldn't be carved up by the international community to make it so it cannot defend itself. So Israel is a very tiny sliver of land, very tiny compared to the surrounding community. The people in Gaza, nobody wants them. No, they can't go anywhere. If anywhere, they're going to go to America. But the surrounding community, they don't want the people of Gaza because they are apparently extremely violent people and not good neighbors. So I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for them because they're attacking Israel. They have nothing but hate, and you know, that's just my judgment. Now they have a right to live. They have a right to exist. But why won't the people in Egypt accept them? Why won't the people in Syria or Iran or Iraq? Why won't they? No, they don't want them because they're violent people. Okay, and so here we are. Go ahead.
So you're done. So firstly, let me just educate you on this particular point because you got your history mixed up. Firstly, the UN partition plan in 1948 partitioned 56% of the land to Israel, the so-called Jewish state, and the balance of that, which was still a minority, to the existing indigenous Palestinian population. That's the first thing. Prior to that, and if you look at the studies of Israeli historians like Ilan Pappé, and particularly people like Benny Morris, they make the claim that prior to the declaration, where the UN, in fact, apportioned 56% and the minority to the Palestinians, you had a situation where there were existing Zionist Jewish death squads. And these particular death squads, like Irgun, like Stern, I don't know if you've heard of them, they basically engaged in a series of massacres against Palestinian villages prior to the actual Declaration of Independence in 1948. So that set up what was then known as the actual partition plan. When the declaration was made by Israel, as opposed to taking 56% of the land, they actually took more than 70% of the land and then ethnically cleansed, meaning they expelled close to 900,000 Palestinians.
Hold on.
A lot of them fled to different.
Hold on.
Hold on.
I just want to make it. They did not ethnically cleanse. That is a poor term.
What did
Ethnic
they do?
Cleansing means murder.
What did they do? No.
Ethnic cleansing is murder.
You see, you don't know legal definitions. Ethnically cleansed does not. There's different categories in international law. Let me teach you this. There's war crimes. There's crimes against humanity. There's genocide, and there's ethnically cleanse someone. Ethnic cleansing could fall under the category of killing someone, and could also fall under the category of imposing upon that individual conditions which lead to the eradication or elimination from the society where they are basically placed. So I'm saying, when I'm talking about ethnically cleansed, they were moved out, they were kicked out of the land.
Okay, that's better. Let's use the proper terminology. They were kicked out of the land.
Okay, yeah, they were kicked out. But there were also massacres being committed by Zionist Jewish death squads. You have to know that. For example, if you look at the notable atrocities that were committed by Jewish militias, there were groups like Irgun and the Lehi paramilitary groups. They were basically involved in things like the Deir Yassin massacre and the Al-Dawayima massacre. As a result of those violent incursions, you had a situation where Palestinian women were gang raped by these Jewish Zionist death squads. A lot of them had people like Ben Gurion. Ben Gurion, the first prime minister, comes from them. And they essentially became the formative foundings and the foundations of the Israeli Defense Force. So the Balfour Declaration was just simply a letter from Arthur Balfour to Lord Lionel Walter Rothschild in 1917, when the British Mandate came into existence and spoke about a Jewish homeland. But essentially what happened prior to the declaration, and prior, in fact, to the Holocaust, in the 1930s, you had Jewish Zionist death squads that were running rampant. For example, even not only targeting Palestinians, but for example, British diplomats, like for example, the King David Hotel bombing. You familiar with the King David Hotel bombing? It was done by Jewish. Yeah, it was done by Jewish Zionist death squads, and people like Ben Gurion and Yitzhak Shamir and all these founding fathers of Israel were behind this. So the reality of the situation is that, come what may, you had European Jews or people who claimed to be colonials. They were not Jews indigent to Palestine, but predominantly European colonial settlers, created a settler colonial occupation in terms of which they expelled the vast majority of people. A number of Arabs did stay there, but then the vast majority fled to Gaza and what is now the modern day West Bank. And the West Bank came under Jordanian occupied control and Gaza under Egyptian occupied control. That wasn't enough for Israel, because in 1967, there was no provocation by the Arabs or the Palestinians at all. But Israel then attacked in 1967 and occupied Gaza and occupied the West Bank. And they occupy the West Bank to this day, where they kill Palestinians, who you say are bad people, and they steal their homes.
Did I say Palestinians were bad people?
Did you not say, Muhammad, did you not hear that these are evil? Oh, so they're not bad. Who are you referring to as bad people?
You said that all the people in Gaza are
bad people.
That's what you said.
Well, the people in Gaza are violent. Absolutely. There's no question about that.
So all the people in Gaza are violent, and so therefore
they are
all of them.
From what I've seen. I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, they all want to destroy Israel, every one of them,
and
without exception. Without exception.
Okay. And what about Israelis and Israeli settlers?
Well, Israeli wants their land back.
So when you say want their land back, this is the land that belongs to
I'm sorry, can I jump in here a second?
Inshallah. Yeah, jump in.
Jazakallah khair. So I don't know your name, man. What's your name? Sorry.
You can call me Seabass.
Seabass. Okay. Well, Seabass, when you say violent, what do you mean by violent, and what do you mean by sorry, you said two things. Just refresh my memory. You said that the Palestinians are violent, and what else?
I didn't say the Palestinians were violent. I said Hamas.
You did.
You said
Hamas.
You said
Hamas.
No, you said the
Hamas
Palestinians. You said the Palestinians.
I said Hamas. You're not using. You're not putting words in my mouth.
Don't putting words in my mouth. You said everybody in Gaza.
I said Hamas.
You said everyone in Gaza is violent because, and what do you call it?
Everyone in Gaza,
and then they attack the Israelis. The thing is, what do you expect from a people who have been occupied, who have lived under apartheid, who have been under siege, who have had their homes taken away from them, who have been driven out? What do you expect them to do exactly? By the way, when you talk about the Israelis, listen. When you talk about the Israelis just wanting to take the thing is, you talk about the Israelis wanting to take their land back. You got to remember that in 1917, when the British Mandate happened, and then in 1947, 1948. By the way, when the Israelis first came to Palestine, okay, I think it was around 1922 or something like that. They actually set up the Red House, and that whole that house was designed in order to plan the expulsion of the Palestinian people from their land. And now we're sitting here today and you're telling me that the Israelis want their land back? I'm sorry, but I think it's the Palestinians that want their land back, not the Israelis. The Israelis want to continue.
Brother Yemeni, I just want to make one point.
By the way, salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, and it's great to have you. One thing which gets me is these individuals that make all kinds of justification for mass murder and for slaughter. And they're shameless in doing that. So this character who goes by the word Christ brings a sword. I want to share something I want to just share something with him. Speaking about the land, and Mohammed, if I can just share something quickly, I want him to view this. Let me just share a screen. I want to share a screen. For some reason, I don't. Yeah, here we are. Brother, Christ brings a sword. Can you give me your thoughts on this? Yeah, I want to show you something. This is just one example. I hope you can hear this. Let's just go off to basically go off. Here's a.
What are we doing?
He's trying to bring something up on the screen. But you need to see this from the angle, because every justification that you're giving to the Israelis, who, by the way, are currently,
I can't hear
anything. Are you listening to this?
I don't hear anything.
Are you listening?
No, he can't hear it. We can't hear anything. We can't hear anything.
I'm trying to hear something. I don't hear anything.
Can you not see the video?
No.
I just showed you. Wait, hold on, Christ, because now I'm going to come down.
There's nothing on the screen.
I'm lying. Oh, I'm lying. Okay.
Hold on.
I didn't see anything.
One thing which I don't appreciate is your lying. You now saying when you're caught. Hold on.
I can leave.
I don't tell you to leave. I don't tell you to leave.
I'm not lying to you, so stop calling me a liar.
You lied when you said that you didn't call Palestinians as evil people, that you only referred to Hamas. You said everybody in Gaza is bad and evil. Did you or did you not say that?
Yeah, everybody in Gaza is bad and evil. That's what I said. I didn't say Palestine.
So there you go. You said everybody in Gaza is bad and evil.
They are.
That's Palestinians.
Wrong.
No, that's fine. That's fine. On what basis? On what basis are they bad and evil?
They were all cheering on October 7th.
Yes, good.
They were all cheering.
Good.
What are they cheering about? They love murder.
What are they cheering about?
They were cheering about the murder of Jews. That's what they were.
Were they?
Yeah.
Were they?
No doubt.
Without a question. First and foremost, they didn't even know about the Kibbutz festival. Okay, Hamas didn't even know about that. Okay, that was confirmed by Israeli, US, Egyptian intelligence.
What were they cheering about? What were they?
Hold on. Okay, so you have a people. You have a people that managed to
figure this out. Tell me.
I am telling you that you had a people that broke out of the prison walls that they have been put under siege since 2006. Okay. So they've been under siege since 2006, and they managed to get out. First and foremost, as I mentioned, Israeli, US, and Egyptian intelligence made it very clear that Hamas and the other factions, they had no idea about the Kibbutz festival. Now, this is something interesting. Let me tell you something interesting. The cars that were burnt out and everything. Do you remember the first time the Al-Shifa hospital was attacked, and it made a little like a sort of pothole in the car park? Everyone said that this was because it was a Hamas rocket, because their rockets don't have enough firepower. But suddenly they had enough firepower to completely destroy several cars in the Kibbutz festival. It's been shown, and we had Israeli IDF witness testimony that it was actually the Zionists that were shooting up homes and people during that festival. Right, and even if you talk about, let's say that everything that happened was done by Hamas. Let's assume that, okay? Even though that's not true.
It's a good assumption.
No, it's like I said, it didn't happen. Right?
Assumption. Look, it was all done by Hamas.
No. Okay, well, first and foremost, it wasn't just. First and foremost. It's
not an assumption.
Exactly.
What Yemeni said.
I believe that there are bad people in Israel.
Hold on.
There are bad people in Israel.
What the brother Yemeni stated was that Israel on that particular day also invoked the Hannibal Doctrine, where they attacked and used military firepower, Apache helicopter, to attack their own civilians, invoking the Hannibal Directive and even burning their own civilians, which they initially blamed on Hamas.
But then when Hamas, when there was a missile strike in Shifa Hospital, suddenly it was Hamas because it created a pothole. It was only their missiles are only strong enough to create a pothole. This is according to Israeli intelligence. Okay, but 7th of October, burnt out cars and everything, plus the presence of an Apache helicopter and stuff. Don't look. some of us have
I don't know anything about an Apache helicopter.
No, of course not, because you don't actually
stuff up.
Because you have justified because you. Wait,
Seabass. Making stuff up. You're not showing me any.
If you're going to refer to yourself as,
I'll give it to you. We'll show it to you now.
I'll show you an Apache helicopter.
I'll show it to you now. Israeli media.
You got
Brother Yusuf will bring that up for you. Right?
Stick to the facts and stop making
Brother Yusuf will bring that up for you.
Bring it up now.
Listen, we understand. We also have
nobody ever said anything about an Apache helicopter.
No, exactly.
Let me share the screen with you. Can you see the screen? Hold on.
He's going to bring it up for you. Right?
Hold on. I'll bring it up. Let me bring it up here.
What's the source? What is the source?
And by the way, when Christ comes back in the book of Revelation, he's going to murder the Jews. Do you know that? You know when Christ comes back with the sword in the book of Revelation, he's going to murder the Jews. Are you aware of that?
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that then.
Yes, it's here. Here we are.
Pick a subject.
Here we are. Hold on.
We're gonna bring it. We're gonna bring it.
Talk about that.
Yes, it's here. Wait, Christ, can you hear us? Yes, it's here. This was the actual video where this is the actual Twitter feed from the where, and I'll try and this is Israeli. This is on October 2nd.
Man, that's a video game.
It's not a video game.
A video game.
Since when did Call of Duty look like that?
Let me show you Haaretz. I'll show you Haaretz newspaper. Hold on a second.
Let's go to Haaretz, man. I can do that on a video game too.
So I mean, this is how.
All right, Seabass, while he's bringing up some more the evidence.
A lot of lies.
Look, just because you want to be referred to as a fish, don't behave like one, okay?
I'm not a fish. Seabass. Christ brings
can you see this here?
By the way, Seabass eats all the little
see this
fish.
here?
That's what you are.
Christ brings a sword. Can you see this from the times of Israel? Can you see this? Christ brings a sword. Can you see it from the times of Israel? What did it say? This is from the times of Israel.
IDF helicopter may have harmed us. I see a lot of
of course, the Israeli police. Listen to this. The Haaretz article. Let me read this point. Cites an unnamed Israeli saying that an investigation. Investigation found that an IDF helicopter at the site that was fighting terrorists apparently harmed a few party goers in the area. Now, the Times of Jerusalem, the Times of Jerusalem, and the Times of Israel is essentially conservative Israeli media. The more liberal media like Haaretz are making this as a fact that Israel targeted its own civilians using the Hannibal Directive. This is from the Times of Israel, which is a right-wing pro-Israeli publication, and they are considering the fact that the IDF attacked its own civilians, and they show you a picture. Can you see the picture here? Shows abandoned site of the Supernova Music Festivals near Kibbutz Reim, where some 360 people were killed. But this burning was by Israeli soldiers. I'll give you another article here. Hold on a second.
Let me answer. Can I answer?
Hold on a second.
Oh, I can't answer.
I'll let you answer, but you asked a question. You spoke for long.
You got to stick to one subject. Don't make me answer 10 questions all at once. You just move on to the next one. You won't let me answer this one.
It's not another one.
This is the same point.
There's another article here. Can you see this here?
So we're going to move on. I don't even get to answer the last one.
Helicopters killed own soldiers, civilians on October 7th. What do you say about that? Here.
I see a picture of a bunch of cars stacked up, but I don't see any context.
Okay, here's
out of context. I can make stuff up too.
Okay, no. This is the Israeli. Okay. So here's a fact.
I don't want hearsay. That's not a fact.
Here's a fact. Here's a fact. This is from the Cradle article.
Print doesn't make it a fact.
But it's citing Israeli sources.
Why don't we stick with what we know for a fact instead of making
this is what we know. This is what we know.
This is a 15th October report explained.
No helicopter in video. There's no pictures of a helicopter. There's no video of a helicopter. I saw pictures of paragliders.
Okay, I'll show you my YouTube channel where Yasmin Porat, the Israeli eyewitness, confirms that. I'll show it to you here. Here's a South African debate initiative. I'll show you the actual. I'll send you the link. Let me try and open this up on my website.
I don't care.
No, of course you want to live in your own.
No, you won't care because you're afraid of facts.
Show me some
you're afraid of facts.
I don't want to
here's it here.
Work for you.
Here's it here. Okay, here's it here. Here's it here. Here we are. Look at this. This is it here. This is. I'm gonna expand this for you, but can you just give us a minute to listen? I'll let you speak. Here's it here. Listen to this.
מסיבת טבע שהפכה למסיבת טבח, והיית אפילו בת ערובה במשך 2.5 בידי הטרוריסטים של חמאס.
נכון. אני אחרי המסיבה ברחתי יחד עם בן זוגי
Look what she says.
נקלענו לקיבוץ בארי לתפוס של מחסה בשעה שאנחנו לא יודעים שיש חדירת מחבלים, בעצם אנחנו להתגונן מפני הקסאמים.
כן.
דפקנו בדלת אצל זוג ממש נחמד, משפחת דגן, הדס ועדי, שהכניסו אותנו לממד שלהם, שהיינו בממד איתם בין 6 ל-8 שעות, תחת פחד מאוד גדול, כי אנחנו יודעים שיש חדירה של כ-100 מחבלים בתוך הקיבוץ, והיריות נשמעות בכל עבר, עד שאנחנו מגיעים לשלב שהזוג הזה מודיע לנו שהמחבלים ממש נמצאים בית לידינו, ושכנראה הם יגיעו אלינו, ובאמת לא עוברות 5 דקות וכל הבית מתנפץ לרסיסים, ואנחנו במשך שעה מצליחים לא לתת להם לפרוץ את הממד שלנו, ובמשך שעה דופקים 10 מחבלים בערך על הממד, להכות בערבית, שעה מאוד מאוד בטוחה, והרגשנו בפחד שלא יתואר, ואחרי שעה מצליחים לפרוץ את הממד, ונוצאים אותנו את 4תנו,
have some patience. We want to talk to
שכבר
you.
בו שהו 8 בני ערובה נוספים, אנחנו מצטרפים ל8 האלה, ואנחנו הולכים להיות דרך כ12 בני ערובה, עם 40 מחבלים. שומרים עלינו.
No, look at the words. Look at the words.
What's the point? I don't get it.
He mentioned,
What is your point?
Her point is Christ brings a sword, because Christ is violent in your version of reality.
It
Her
is?
point
Really?
is that hold on.
Well,
Don't
pick a subject. Let's talk about that if you want to talk about Christ.
No, hold on a second.
Violent, okay?
Now you're jumping. What she's
You're
saying.
jumping.
No, I'm dealing with the issues. With the issues. What she says in this interview on Israeli radio as an eyewitness, that there came a point, and it's here on this particular stream, where Israeli Apache helicopters came onto the scene and started targeting Israeli civilians, Israeli hostages, together with Hamas, and they invoked the Hannibal Directive. The Hannibal Directive basically says that if there's a hostage situation to where soldiers are taken away or where civilians are taken away by, for example, the enemy, then the principle of the Hannibal Directive in Israeli military terms is that you kill both the hostages and you kill those who are taking them as being kidnapped. So Israel then kidnapped or killed its own civilians.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, well. So the point is, when in doing that,
so if that's what they did, I'd have nothing against it.
Hold on.
I've got nothing against that.
Yeah. So you don't have a problem with that. So what happened?
No problem with that.
Okay. So we know how brutal you are. We know how brutal you are. What they did in doing that, they then hold on, Adam, hold on. In doing that,
I'm not Adam.
Speak.
I'm Seabass.
I'm sorry, Christ, not a king. In doing that, they then burnt their own hostages. So you initially saw the reports in the press that Hamas burnt Israeli civilians, and they burnt the cars and burnt houses. It then became discovered, which has now been confirmed, that the Israeli Apache helicopters burnt their own civilians on October 7th. So a large number of people who were killed on October 7th, 1,139 of the 1,139, a significant number were killed by Israeli soldiers. Are you willing to condemn Israel for killing its own civilians on October 7th if you're willing to condemn Hamas for October 7th?
No, I'm not going to condemn Israel, because Israel is a sovereign nation, and they...
No, it's not.
Yes, they are.
It's not a sovereign nation. It's an apartheid
sovereign nation. What are you talking about?
It's an apartheid
state. The United Nations.
It's an apartheid state.
They're in the United Nations, and you're not.
It's an apartheid state.
Palestine is not in the United Nations, and Israel is. Fact. Let's stick to the facts. They are a sovereign nation.
No one is denying that Israel is part of the UN, but
they are a sovereign
it is not a sovereign nation. Okay?
They're recognized by the United Nations, and Palestine isn't.
Well, who said? Actually, Palestine is recognized as a state, but under the UN.
Palestine doesn't have anything in. They don't have a representation.
Palestine is, first and foremost, Palestine is recognized, which is why the current legal proceedings are for the state of Palestine. The current legal proceedings are happening with the ICJ as well as the ICC. Refer to Palestine, okay?
Are we going to talk about the helicopter? Or are we going to talk about the United Nations? Let's
You raising this issue.
You raised it, okay? First and foremost, okay?
They're a sovereign nation, and now you want to argue about that. But they are a sovereign. They're called Israel. They have land, and they're a nation.
No, this is what the allies, only the allies of Israel.
Nuclear weapons. Are you going to try to remove a country?
Oh, look, you talk about nuclear weapons. That's going to scare us.
Let me ask you a question without being interrupted. What do you think is going to happen when you start pushing Israel out of their country and they still have...
It's not their country.
Well, what happens when you push Israel out of Palestine?
Good man.
And they still have nuclear weapons on submarines. How are you going to stop them?
What
do you think is going to happen?
You think they will actually use those nuclear weapons? Are you that naive to think that they're going to use nuclear weapons?
What have they got to lose?
What have they got to lose? Everything. Okay.
They already lost everything. You pushed them out of Palestine.
No. Who said? The Jews lived. The Jews were comfortable in Palestine. The Jews lived. The Jews lived peacefully in Palestine since the Muslims conquered the land. Okay, when the Muslims took the land from the Christians that were consistently killing them up until the up until World War II, you got to remember this. The Jews were being killed predominantly by Christians from the 7th century. Well, actually before that, okay, since the rise of Christianity. All right, so we're talking 1st century. Actually, we're even talking before that, because prior to King Herod and everything, Jews were persecuted. If anything, they were persecuted from the time of Moses. Okay, but since the rise of Christianity, it was Christians that have been persecuting and removing Jews from any position of livelihood. Okay, throughout their history. But when the Muslims conquered Palestine, listen. Okay, you don't want to be interrupted, so don't interrupt me.
Subject, you're not.
No. You're talking about. Okay, look, I'm saying to you. No, it's connected. It's connected. But the Muslims, when they conquered Palestine in the 7th century, okay, from that time until World War II, the Jews have enjoyed prosperity in Palestine. Okay, so no, we are not about removing Jews. If anything, when we conquered Palestine in the 7th century, they were already either expelled or killed. There wasn't a single Jew in Palestine. It was through Umar bin Khattab where he demanded that 80 Jewish families were brought back to Palestine so that there is a Jewish presence, simply because that land was important to them due to the Temple Mount. Right, so it was based on religious grounds. It was on religious grounds that we ensured a Jewish presence in Palestine. The Jewish presence in Palestine remained until they decided to come knocking at the door of the Palestinian people, and instead of being grateful for housing them, for taking them in, for the atrocities of Christian Europe, they decided to massacre and drive out those who tried to help them, house them, feed them, clothe them. Now, for us, I'm going to make this very clear. Okay, for us, we will fight the Zionist regime and we will bring an end to the Israeli regime. This does not mean that there will not be Jews being permitted to live in Palestine. Okay, this is not what we're about. The Zionist regime is an oppressive regime, and this is why we fight them. We fight every single oppression where it is committed by Muslims or non-Muslims. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. There is no two ways about it. Okay, you're a Christian, I'm a Muslim. I'm not telling you that for a fact. You want to talk about facts? I'm telling you a fact from what we have. Okay, that regime will fall, and it's on its way. It's on its way. The entire world has had enough. Has had enough of the atrocities of the Israeli people. You want to talk about 1,200 people, most of which have been killed by the Israeli Defense Force. Well, actually, the idiotic diaper frat boys. Okay, that's what
I wish you'd make your point and stick with it, because you're just all over the map.
Well, you're not getting my point.
We were talking about nuclear war, and now you're talking about something else.
Here's the point. The Jews are most safe under Muslim rule.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Do you believe that?
No. Hold on. You've lost. You know what?
Believe nuclear war is on the doorstep?
I've wasted my time because I haven't even had my meal, and I'm in South Africa. I just want to leave this with you because we're going to close this thing shortly. You don't want to answer that
question, do you?
No, we will answer it.
You don't want to answer it.
This is a report by Amnesty International which speaks about Israel's apartheid against Palestinians. Israel's an apartheid state. It's an illegal state. And the question you need to reconcile with yourself is, why would you continue
He's gone.
as
He's
a
gone.
Christian?
He's gone. He's gone.
Has he gone?
He's gone. He
gone?
decided to drop out. The thing is, look at this.
This guy's. I mean, this is the problem with them. They can't reason. We've given him enough time.
They can't handle it. And the thing is like, look at the cowardice. Look at the cowardice of him, right? He doesn't want to give his name. Alhamdulillah, look, me and you, we have our faces, we have our names. Well, everyone knows my name, not just Al-Yemeni. People know what my name actually is. We are here being very clear about the realities of the things, and we are not afraid to show our face. But this guy comes on and says it's good to kill hostages. It's good to place people under siege. It's good to starve them. It's good to do all of these things. But is he brave enough to actually put his face and say, yeah, this is it, this is what it is, and tell us his name? He wanted to be referred to as a fish, but he behaves like a fish. That's why that's the first thing that came to him. Oh, call me Seabass.
None of them are. And I think this is a problem that when we entertain people and want to hear the argument, none of them, including this character Adam and now this guy, I gave him the benefit of the doubt when he came in. I tried to engage him, but he was unable to communicate and articulate a proper discourse. And at the end of the day, I mean, his name gives it up. Christ brings a sword, or Christ is a sword, or some kind of nonsense. Most of them are anonymous individuals, so they go under names like Destiny, Charlemagne, and all of that, because of the fact that they're defending an immoral, implausible, unjustifiable regime. And at the end of the day, this is the reason behind that. But it's 11 o'clock for me, and I never had my supper this evening, and I have to get back to work. But I think maybe in the future, we could have more engaging debates with far more productive individuals. And of course, we could have sessions where we bring on individuals and then attempt to, at the very least, educate them. But it becomes difficult, particularly when you've got stubborn, ignorant individuals. He doesn't even know he's confusing the Declaration of Independence with the Balfour Declaration. This is the type of, I don't know if you heard the earlier communications. He doesn't know the difference between the Balfour Declaration and the Declaration of Independence in 1948. So these are the type of individuals that you're dealing with that are brainwashed, it's a pity that they came on. It's good we had this engagement, but they spoiled an otherwise good engagement with the rabbi. And perhaps we could have separate encounters with them, and then of course far more productive, meaningful engagements with other people like Rabbi Feldman, Rabbi Weiss, Finkelstein, probably Rashid Khalidi, and a couple of others.
The thing
Thank you for your contribution, brother Al-Yemeni. It's good to communicate.
Yeah, I was saying to Akhi Muhammad, I was like, if I come on, I'm gonna sound like a terrorist.
No, your contribution was much appreciated. Appreciated.
But like this is the thing. It's like they want to be completely unapologetic about the atrocities that the Jews are committing. But then when we are equally unapologetic about the defense, it's actually the Palestinians that are defending themselves. And astaghfirullah, most of them cannot. Not every single person is born to be a soldier. So when you say that every single person is violent, that in of itself is factually incorrect. Not every man is born to be a soldier. And when you're talking about a population where half of them are under the age of 18,
you see the gall and the audacity of it, and then he backtracked after you confronted him. He said everybody in Gaza is evil. He made that point clearly. He wasn't referring to Hamas, and then essentially he was then caught out on his lies. So I think this is a reality, and I hope people have enjoyed the stream, Brother Muhammad. From your side, I think we can have maybe far more productive. Thank you for your contributions, Brother Yemeni.
Barakallah fiqh. Yeah, I think we need to make sure that the message to the brothers and sisters as well is be unapologetic about this.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we have the haqq, we have the Quran and the Sunnah. We are able to show from the Quran and the Sunnah that despite being in a situation of war, we are not unjust people. That we fight them until the oppression stops, and then if they stop, we stop as well. We are not people that seek out conflict. But at the end of the day, if you want to be in conflict with us, we're all for it. We are not a pacifist religion. We deal with the reality of things. And if an evil person or if an evil regime comes to you and seeks to fight you, then you fight back until the oppression stops, until they say La ilaha illallah, or they pay the jizya, or they are fought until they are killed. It's that simple. And when we talk about the Israelis, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already told us that they are fearful, which is why they hide behind high walls. This is what Allah has told us. Allah has given us the psychology of these people. And of course, there are some of them that, alhamdulillah, have become Muslim, but it's not a lot of them. The majority of them have decided to do today as they have done throughout their existence. These are the people that have killed the prophets, and they are the ones that hate Jibril alayhi salam and Mikael and Israfil. Okay, these are the people that we are dealing with. So, for us to become unapologetic, it is not part of the Muslim. It's not what we are. We shouldn't be apologetic. We are certain in our deen. We are certain in our justice. And this is what we are talking about, justice, not murdering. This is not what we do.
Indeed.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, guys. I do apologize. I kept on hopping in and out. My Wi-Fi was playing up. I had to restart the computer. So I'm going to re-watch this part of the stream, inshallah, later on today, and I'll probably clip it. Brother Yemeni, you might have the option to download it onto your channel. If you want to, you can. If not, then I can send it to you. Not a problem. But Yusuf, mashallah, thank you for another great show. We had a great guest earlier on.
We may have, I think, just to tell the viewers, we may have Rabbi Weiss on next week, Wednesday. There's Rashid Khalidi, who's quite an interesting, if it comes right, although he's busy. I have someone who is in contact with, I don't know if it'll be possible, but if he does give his time with Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo is the actor who acts as Hulk in the Avengers, but he's been a strong advocate of Palestine, and let's just see how that goes. And it'll be good to see different perspectives, different people, to show that this is one of justice and morality and indeed truth. And we expose falsehood and clamp down on falsehood, and that's why I was harsh with Adam. It was because you were coming up with falsehood, and the same thing with Brother Al-Yemeni dealing with the other character, Christ. Is a sword. But this is the thing, and I think we've come to an end. So Jazakallah khair. Thank you to all the viewers out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will have further engagements on this point.
I don't know if you met Brother Yemeni before. He's well known.
It's my first time.
Amazing. Really lovable guy, mashallah. Habibi. He's always at Speaker's Corner. He's always welcoming me and so forth. So, mashallah, really nice to see you, Brother Yemeni. Mashallah.
You got a good, powerful, articulate voice, and we need more brothers like you. Excellent.
Really, I think that I could be more articulate, to be honest. I always say this even on my streams. I'm like, it takes me.
We all are improving. We all are improving. I mean, I'm improving it now. We all are improving all the time. We have to.
Well, mashallah, you're doing great work as well. I have seen some of the stuff that you've been doing, and mashallah, it's very on point. It's irrefutable stuff. So that's always great to see. But just a quick comment as well. I think this is important to say as well, because sometimes what we have is we speak to non-Muslims about issues like this, which is okay. But when we talk to rabbis, one of the reasons that I don't like to talk to rabbis, and this is something that I've noticed, is because these rabbis condemn Israel. They are the same people that have properties in Israel, which begs the question: if you really believe that you are from a Torah and Talmudic perspective, that you believe that you are a people without the land, why do you still have property there? Are you going to lie to me now? And likewise with these people that we talk to, and people that we see on Twitter or X, when they start retweeting and talking about Palestine, the brothers and sisters start to give them a platform that they shouldn't have, because at the end of the day, these are disbelievers. And while they may agree with us on certain aspects of morality, at the end of the day, they are not our basis for that. And this is a trap that we tend to fall into. Like, we've seen what happened with the likes of Jordan Peterson, for example. As soon as he started saying things that were akin to Islam, he was given such a platform, and then subhanAllah, he showed his true colors. Likewise with that Jackson Hinkle, or whatever his name is, same thing. So it's good to have to utilize these people on certain things, but the brothers and sisters shouldn't attach themselves to them. That's what
I think the point, brother, you're making is I think we should have discernment and consistency.
Yes.
With the Netrei Karta, is is, I think, in certain categories banned in Israel itself. So I don't think Weiss or Rabbi Feldman basically have properties themselves, but directly.
No, I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying all of them.
No, surely not. But this is the problem, unfortunately, within social media, and I try to stay away from it. That you get these kind of celebrity figures, like, I mean, with Andrew Tate. I mean, everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and I mean, it becomes problematic. Then you have a situation where, for example, assume he's convicted of human trafficking. What do you do in that situation? I mean, so the problem is we need to be discernment and consistent. That when we give people or platform individuals, we platform them for the perspective of either interrogating their worldviews, or on the other hand, you know, if they say something that is consistent with our position, then, I mean, we need to maintain the fact that they've been consistent throughout their particular discourse over a number of years, not just suddenly a shift. And I think that's where you have the problem, where, you know, new characters just come up, pop out from nowhere, and then you just platform them because they've got a massive social media following. And unfortunately, a lot of the Muslim YouTube channels have done that. You know, people, unless they want to just simply you know, increase the algorithms of their own YouTube channel by hosting these individuals. But I think with Brother Muhammad, he's been sincere, and we try and get people who are, at least in my interaction with him, people who may not be necessarily having massive followings, but people of substance and concern, you know, like the rabbi doesn't have any massive followings, and you know, the same with some of the other speakers he has. So
I agree. But it was just because obviously it happens more often than not. That's why I thought to raise it. At the end of the day, like we know that not all of these rabbis do actually have properties, and I'm not saying every single one does, but the ones that I have come across, they do. They do. And I'm like, well, you're just lying to me then. And I don't tolerate that, you know. So I mean, these are the people that have belied Rasul, even though they knew him like they knew their own sons. So what do I expect from them when they talk to me? You know. So I just thought it was a point to make, just for the brothers and sisters to realize that just don't platform anyone. Do your vigilant research. At the end of the day, we are people who use our intellect. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us in the Quran, that we are a people of intellect, that we are the one that Allah loves those who use their minds, that reason. You know, so don't just platform anyone. Have some hikmah, inshallah, and do like these brothers above are doing. You know, they are vetting the people that they speak to before platforming them, and making sure that they are sincere in what they believe in. And like Brother Yusuf said, they don't just appear out of nowhere, but they held a certain position for years and years.
Thank you for that, brother.
For the Yemeni, beautiful, mashallah. Once again, Brother Yusuf, thank you for joining us and making this a good show. People can view? Yeah, people can also view this on the South African Debate Initiative channel. So guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let me just remind you, 1 second. Let me just type that in, 1 second. So yeah, here it is, guys. Look it up on YouTube. Please subscribe and like to the channel, because this stream is getting shown also in South Africa live. So mashallah, it's, you know, we're having a good audience. But nevertheless, mashallah, again, thank you so much, Brother Yusuf, for your time, your efforts, and all the logistical work.
I never knew it was going to take 3 hours.
Mashallah, yeah. But yeah, it's good to kind of, you know, sometimes the snakes have to pop their heads out the grass, and mashallah, I'm not saying that as a physical threat or anything to anybody, but sometimes you've got to find out who the snakes are in the grass, and some of them came up today and they were dealt with, and sometimes you've got to be harsh, but maybe my words are a bit harsh, but and nevertheless, alhamdulillah. But the Yemeni, mashallah, it was great to see you. You always bring some nur. You always bring nur to the stream. I really appreciate it. And I think this weekend we've got a possible debate happening on Saturday, and then the Trinity Forum on the Saturday. And then next week, I think is a Thursday, we'll have another rabbi, as Brother Yusuf mentioned, hopefully joining us. So guys, stay tuned for all of this. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to all the channels, and don't forget to check out Brother Yemeni's channel. He has some very good stuff on. I watch it. Very knowledge-based information based on Quran and Sunnah, and mashallah, I definitely recommend Brother Yemeni's channel. So check out Brother Yemeni's channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe to it. And barakallah feek. Sorry, brother, go ahead.
Yeah, what do you call it? If I feel better, inshallah, between now and Saturday, I'm gonna have episode 2 of the Unapologetic Yemeni Muslim. So basically, that's the stream where I just go on an absolute rant and speak my thoughts unapologetically and speak to the brothers and sisters about things. We had the first episode a while ago about the Muslim condition, why we are in the situation that we're in, and this stream, inshallah, will follow up on that. So, inshallah, tune in. Look out for that.
Awesome. Thank you for letting everybody know, and hopefully everybody can click onto your channel and support you. Like I said, guys, this has been a fantastic show. We started off with the rabbi. It was very interesting hearing his thoughts and how he felt the situation in Gaza and Palestine was going. And nevertheless, we had a couple of Christians in the chat who seemed to not listen to what the rabbi was saying. It was coming directly from the horse, as they say, the horse's mouth here in the UK. But the Christians still saying, no, the land belongs. But the rabbi saying, no, it doesn't. But guys, you guys need to really get your heads out of the sand and listen to what the rabbi was saying. But alhamdulillah, great show, great interaction towards the end. And jazakumullah khair. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله